Chapter 17:6. The classroom after summer vacation ended. The heat had yet to dissipate in September. The heat waves rumbled on in the morning, and the sun was too dazzling. However, Amani did not feel that hot, for he saw Mahiru walking next to him, looking refreshed. The hand holding his was colder and felt comfortable to touch. "It's hot, huh?" "It is considered autumn, but it does seem like it will take a while to cool down." Mahiru fanned herself with the hand not holding Amani's. Her expression remained cool and collected, despite what she said, and Amani's face in turn was distorted from the heat, given that his black hair was hot due to the sunlight it absorbed. I don't like hot days, though." "Is that so?" "I'm better with the cold. Besides, you don't like the smell of sweat, right?" "I do not mind if it is yours." "All right, so I hate it. Got to take note of it." Amani could not expect himself to simply give off a nice fragrance, but he definitely did not want to give off a foul smell, so he had been paying attention to it. More so when he had to live together with someone. Aman quietly decided that he would wipe himself dry with body paper at school and use some odorless deodorant. Mahiru then brought her nose to his elbow. "Your original scent is nice, Amane-kun." "Thanks. You smell great as usual, too." That is because I have been taking care of myself. I do not want to make you suffer too, Amane-kun." "I feel the same. Do understand." Ultimately, both of them felt the same. Amani chuckled as he felt the cooling air in the heat, slowly walking towards school along with Mahiru's pace. "You two trying to blind us early in the morning?" "Blind what?" Amani and Mahiru chatted away once they sat down, and found some reason Itsuki greeted them with a cringing face. The air conditioning was switched on in the classroom, and it was cooling. Every classroom had one, and they would not be bothered by the outside heat. "Like you two are making out so much, it's blinding." "What's blinding?" "We're just chatting." "Yeah, you're definitely talking like serious students." But well, the mood and attitude and eyes. Once they arrived at the classroom, they greeted their classmates, sat together for some mock test revisions, and it seemed this sight felt so passionate to the onlookers. Aman was simply revising seriously, and had no idea how it looked so passionate. "Say, can you please stop acting sweet instinctively with Sheena publicly? We didn't do anything. We're just checking what we're tested, quizzing each other." "Say, Aman, I don't know what you're getting at." "Whatcha saying?" So he gave such a look, but Itsuki was giving the same look back at him. "Look around you." Amane did as Itsuki said, looked around, and saw the boys giving him murderous looks. The girls looked elated and somewhat envious. Kadawaki, Hiragi, and Kuju, who were chatting away, gave them wry looks, and Amane's face cringed. "You two have been really dazzling recently, you know? Aren't you the same with Chitose?" "What do you mean?" "We're deliberately doing it openly. It's not like we're acting like you two, giving off all that newlywed vibe." "It's weird hearing you said that." Aman felt it was weirder for Itsuki to say that his frolicking till this point was deliberate, but apparently to the entire class, it seemed the fault was with Amane. Mahiru's cheeks turned red once she heard Itsuki say so, and it seemed she was in discomfort, for she might have realized so. Amane really hoped that Mahiru would have said so earlier. "Anyway, be careful. It'll be dangerous if you two do what you did back during the summer festival." "What do you mean, dangerous?" "I too feel it is a pity to show Amane-kun to others." "Wait, is it that ridiculous?" Amane answered once he heard Mahiru mutter, and patted her head. She pursed her lips slightly, seemingly pouting as she said, "This is where you are hopeless, Amane-kun." Chapter 177, After Homeroom. It was the first day of the school semester, and the school assembly ended. Their homeroom teacher ended the session, and they could return home. However, it was also because they had tests the next day. "I don't want to have tests." Once class was dismissed, Chitose said next to Itsuki, sprawled on the table, and grumbled in frustration. "Really? I think it's easy if you do your revision normally. We have it easy here since we can go home earlier during exam period. You and Mahirun get to say this since you're elite students. Ordinary students hate tests. Isn't that right, Yu-chan? Ha 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 ha. Well, I understand what you two are thinking. I feel a little lonely since I don't have club activities, but a rest day is a luxury to me. I don't really have any thoughts about tests. Ugh, you're an elite student too, Yu-chan. Katawaki was the ace of the track team, but he was not all bronze. His studies were good, and in fact, he was in the upper echelon. Chitose did not participate in any clubs, but she used to be on the track team and preferred to be physically active rather than studying, which was why she was bad at the latter. Truth be told, the biggest reason was that she hated studying. Ikun, everyone's bullying me. No point looking for me. Well, just work hard, Chi. Ikun, you traitor. You've been secretly studying during summer break. I don't get my freedom if my grades are too poor. Itsuki laughed. According to him, his parents demanded that he improve his grades. He was capable to begin with, smart, but he always prioritized Chitose, resulting in his grades being average. His father was probably unhappy about this. Guess that guy has it tough with his family. So Amane pitied as he prepared to go home. It appeared Mahiru was done, for she approached him while holding her bag. My apologies for keeping you waiting. I was talking to the teacher. It's fine. I'm just chatting with them. Chitose is just rambling stuff like tests tomorrow and such. I cannot help you there. You've forsaken me. We will be having them tomorrow, and it is too reckless to remember everything that is to be tested, impossible even, and besides, what is the point of the long break? Chitose, who looked up pleadingly to Mahiru, collapsed onto the table again once she heard this rational take. You reap what you sow. Amon gave a look of pity, and he was really powerless to help with her lack of memory and hard work. However, once Mahiru said those harsh words of concern, she showed a conflicted smile, took a file from her bag, and handed it over to Chitose along with the documents. I expected this. So I have sorted out likely areas that will be tested. You probably will not fail. Mahirun, you angel. I have told you many times not to call me that. Chitose leaped and hugged Mahiru, causing the latter to frown. On a side note, Amane did contribute to this file full of notes that could possibly be tested in this exam. Amane and Mahiru both understood the habits of the teachers setting the papers and chose points that they might choose. They would be sorry if they did not manage to pinpoint the teacher's habits, but the crucial points should allow for Chitose to get just enough marks to pass. Amane-kun did help too. Do thank you. Amane? What? Which one do you want? A photo of Mahirun happily eating crepes with cream on her face, or a teary, shivering Mahirun while watching a horror flick? Chitose-san. Why not both? Aman-kun too. Mahiru frowned, blushing furiously, for her photo was taken without her knowledge. Amani burst out laughing. Just joking. Really? I'll keep it if you send me. The photos were not at fault, and Amane was naturally glad to receive the photos of his girlfriend's adorable side, as seen from her friend. Mahiru looked displeased to hear Amane say so, but she was not angry at him, for Chitose was cackling away. Chitose-san no baka. She cried out loudly. Say, Mahirun, it's good that you're on good terms with Amane, and it's a dream for him to have his lover's photos, you know? That is a completely different matter. Mahiru said adamantly and turned her head aside. Both Amane and Chitose laughed, and she pouted away. Chapter 178. About lunch and reward. So, you took it? Mahiru remained peeved once they got home, asking Amane. She did not mind the fact that her photo was taken, but it seemed she did not want Amane to see it, and her eyes seemed spiteful as she looked at him. Hazard a guess. I shall add lots of suyu sauce and wasabi to your soba noodles, Amane-kun. It shall be so delicious, you shall tear and snivel. Sorry, I didn't take them actually. The soba noodles for lunch were taken as hostage, and thus Amane confessed honestly as diverting the topic was not effectual at all. Mahiru was the one on the photos, and Amane did not take them willing since she was unhappy about it. Of course, he did intend for Chitose to send them over, assuming that Mahiru allowed for it. Mahiru clearly looked relieved once Amane said so, and was a lot happy. That is good. She tied her hair and got ready to cook. Are you that unwilling? No, not that I am, just that the expression are too embarrassing. I do think they will definitely not look adorable. You don't look embarrassing at all. Actually, you'll definitely look adorable. I do think it is bad of you to say so, Amane-kun. What's bad about that? Bad for my heart. Mahiru turned her face aside, tied her hair into a bun, put on the apron, and started washing. Aman too intended to prepare the condiments and wash the plates, so he stood next to her, washing his hands. He glanced aside at Mahiru and found her face blushing slightly. What will you do if Akazawa-san is to send over an embarrassing photo of you? Well, depending on the kind of photo, I'll probably forgive him unless it is something that's not to be shown into the light of day. Itsuki won't send over anything outrageous, and he won't take them to begin with. I don't remember embarrassing myself that much before him. Are cat ears forgivable? If it's about those forced on me during the karaoke session, that's fine. Mahiru was probably referring to the time when the three boys went for a karaoke session together. For some reason, Itsuki had cat ears with him, stuffed them onto Amane, and took photos of him. Itsuki and Kadawaki stifled their laughter, and Amane immediately pulled them off, but it appeared a photo was taken. Mahiru awkwardly lowered her head once Amane accepted it. I am the one sorry for accepting the photos without your permission. I blame Itsuki for sending it over suddenly. Next time, I'm asking hamburgers from him. Itsuki probably had other photos lying in his folder, which scared him somewhat, but there probably was nothing too overboard. Amane wiped his hands with the soft towel and smiled at the guilty-looking Mahiru. All right, don't worry about it. How about you prepare more condiments and sides instead of feeling guilty? I'll be happier. Wasabi too. In moderation, please. Aman answered with a serious look, and Mahiru seemed a little relieved as she smiled, put her head at his elbow. This is what I like about you, and muttered so. We'll have 3 days of tests starting tomorrow, but nothing major. Aman patted his stomach happily, after he was done eating the soba noodles, and muttered so. He liked to study, and would usually put in some effort, so he did not have to worry about exams. In fact, he was more concerned about his friends' grades. Yes, we simply need to perform normally as usual. Chitose is going to pout and say that elite students can say this if she hears this. Fufu, Chitose-san is saying so because she does have something she is bad at. I shall teach her properly next time. Aman had a thought that Chitose might end up screaming, but he kept it to himself and looked over at Mahiru, who remained nonchalant on this day before the tests. So, what about the reward this time? A reward. You're definitely going to be first, but you should have a reward. I'll do anything as long as I can do it. Your last reward was a lap pillow, I believe. Assuming so, I should reward you again this time. Your happiness is my reward, Mahiru. I feel the same, though. It is sleazy of you to say so. Mahiru pursed her lips, clearly looking displeased. She slapped at Amane's thighs gently, and he held her hand with a wry smile. I want to do something for you. Let me do it this time. There is something I want. Something you want? Mahiru actually had little to none materialistic desire, and hardly had anything she wanted, but she was asking Amani for one. He looked towards her caramel-colored eyes, wondering what it was, and she awkwardly averted her eyes. I believe there is a cushion in your room, Amane-kun. Ah, yes. I want that. Amane blinked a few times, for what Mahiru wanted was really unexpected. She might be really embarrassed, for she did not hide the redness on her face, fidgeting way. I've used that for a long time, you sure? It is fine since you have used it a lot. Your scent comforts me, Amane-kun. Wait, you have a scent fetish, Mahiru? No at all. I like your scent because I like you, Amane-kun, so I am glad if I have you next to me. Oh, okay. Aman had a feeling that she just said something embarrassing. It embarrassed him more than if Mahiru had simply said that she loved him. He scratched his cheek, recalling the cushion in the room. In hindsight, Mahiru would always hug the one cushion whenever she visited Amani's room. He thought it was because she would feel at ease hugging something, but perhaps it was because the cushion belonged to him. But speaking of which, a cushion. No can do? Ah, I don't mind that. You're saying that you don't need the actual person? I think it's better than the cushion scent, he muttered, and heard a murmur. But I cannot bring you back, Amane-kun. You're right, but I can bring you over. Mahiru was clearly flushed red. Aman too felt his face turning red, and smiled. If you're going to stay overnight here, I'll just well, I think I may need to prepare. I'm not forcing you. You can drop by whenever you want, and it's fine if you don't want to come. They were lovers. But surely Mahiru would be worried about the prospect of staying overnight, timid even. They did share the same bed several times, but Mahiru never stayed over at a man's place as a lover, without anyone disturbing. A man did not plan to do anything, but it was no wonder that Mahiru was really rattled at the prospect of staying over, excited and terrified. Thus, Aman hoped that Mahiru would visit only when she wanted to. So you sure you're fine with just the cushion? Yes. How about this? We can buy some cakes. Since you always work hard, some reward is important. After all, it was not good to discuss about something Mahiru had no desire for, so he retracted his words heartily. He frisked his phone and started searching for cakes Mahiru might like. Next to him, Mahiru clearly looked a little flustered. Aman patted her head, and for some reason she headbutted him, Amani-kun no baka, and insulted in an adorable manner. Chapter 179, Freedom After Tests. The tests ended in the blink of an eye. Amane and Mahiru easily dealt with them as they never slacked on it, and the tests were finally over. Chitose, who became a corpse after the hellish period, I'm free, burst out with joy, hands raised, on the last day of the tests. I'm so tired. I survived thanks to you two. Wait for the results before you say that you survived. Don't be a Debbie Downer, I feel completely released. Mahirun. Let's go enjoy ourselves with a tea party at the cafe. I do not mind. Amane-kun. I'm planning to go out with Itsuki, so you two can enjoy yourself. Give me a holler if you're returning home late. I'll pick you up. Chitose, who was all weary from the last-minute cramming of topics, regained her joy, and Aman was not going to stop them. Though he and Mahiru were lovers, they should respect each other's time. He was not so petty to nitpick about her interacting with her friend, and should probably let her enjoy her time. Mahiru seemed relieved when Amani heartily nodded and agreed. I shall do so then, she smiled courteously, and decided to go out with Chitose. A beaming Chitose led Mahiru out of the classroom by the hand. Amane watched the latter's back, and Itsuki smiled as he slapped Amani's back. When did you say you have plans with me? Right now. They never did, but Aman said this so that Mahiru could enjoy herself. Itsuki probably noticed what Amani was planning and did not comment. All right. Nobody's at home anyway, so I don't mind. And I want you to treat me to a burger. Why? The cat ears at the karaoke. You know about that? Shina-san actually blurted it out, huh? Itsuki chuckled without remorse. And Amana slapped at Itsuki's back with a little more force, glaring at him and implying that while it was fine for him to show Mahiru that, Itsuki should have informed Amane. He was unwittingly surprised rather than furious. He doted on Mahiru, and felt that this trivial thing was nothing as long as Mahiru was happy. I'll tell you next time. What kind of photo shall I use next time? You're not reflecting on your actions, Oi. It seemed Itsuki had more photos of Amane in his phone. Amane frowned at the former's leer, but did not reproach further, and instead let him off with a little glare. Mahiru and Chitose were probably having tea at the cafe. Amane and Itsuki arrived at the burger shop. It was a fast food restaurant often frequented by chit-chatting high school students, and besides Amane and Itsuki, there were others of the same school uniform, along with students from other schools. Aman made his order, took the served food, sat at his seat, scanned around and shrugged. There's quite a lot of people here. I think it's not just us. The other schools are done with tests, it seemed. Got some friends from other schools who told me this. Well, there's always a mock paper right after vacation. They're rather active, though. Say, Amane, it's weird how you're being so casual about this. Whatever. Let's hurry and eat first. Itsuki looked a little dumbfounded, but it seemed he might have given up as he quickly said these words, eating the French fries. Aman, too, followed suit as he unwrapped the burger that was Itsuki's treat, and took a bite. The taste was familiar, but Amane felt something was lacking. Perhaps a year's worth of Mahiru's cooking made his tongue all picky. Of course, there was value to junk food, but he felt Mahiru's cooking was the best. You're the one asking me for a treat, but it looks like you're yearning Shiina-san's cooking. Actually, yeah. This is decent, but there's the best cooking out there. I'm grateful to be treated to, though. Okay. Since you two are on such good terms, just get married already. When the time comes, I can't get married when I'm 16 now. You're being so serious. I knew this was the case. Shiina-san's giving the same vibe, too. Shut up. It's not a bad thing, right? No, I'm just relieved. It's encouraging to me how there's a couple next to me who's planning to get married. Itsuki and Chitose were in a relationship with a plan to get married. Aman was a comrade in this sense. The only difference was that Itsuki's father opposed. Itsuki hoped to get his father's approval and happily get married with Chitose. Anyway, how's it going on your side? Same old, same old. I did brush up my scores so that he won't nitpick about it. I'll continue to insist on it, and this is something only I can do, not like I got a choice. How's it going on your side then? You too went to your hometown, right? Itsuki leered as he tapped his foot at Amane. Amane too did likewise and sipped at some orange juice. Nothing special. What did you two do in the summer? You spend days together doing nothing. Aren't you too lax about this? We're going at our own pace. So you mean you kissed and nothing more? It's fitting how innocent you two are acting. Itsuki's voice remained neutral, relieved instead of dumbfounded. Amane felt a little angsty and kicked at Itsuki again. I invited her over for a night, though she didn't drop by. You haven't done it yet? Visited your hometown, didn't spend the night together? That's amazing. Shut up. I don't plan to do anything, just sleep with her. It would be a lie to say that he did not wish to do such a thing, but Amani preferred the comfort of sleeping peacefully with her under the same blanket. It appeared Mahiru too liked the company, and she should probably be more than glad to sleep with him. I don't think this is very normal for a couple. Actually, maybe Shiina-san wants to spend the night with you like this. She'll panic if I mention this, so probably not. She's still like that, even though there's no way you'll do anything. You're the kind to get timid once you see someone looking scared, and definitely stop once you see there's a chance of getting rejected. Shut up. Aman was peeved to be told that he was timid, but he knew that to others, he was a passive coward and could not deny so. It's fine for you not to do anything. Shiina-san's definitely going to work hard based on Chi's suggestion. Oi, control your girlfriend already. I feel she's going to teach my Mahiru way too much unnecessary stuff. I think she'll say some necessary stuff. It's no wonder since you two are so passive with no progress. Maybe she's suggesting teaching some stuff now. Itsuki grinned, and Amane frowned as he looked aside at the unavailable Chitose. Don't give Mahiru any funny ideas. Chapter 180. Little by little, little by little. Mahiru did not contact Amane and returned home at evening. Thus, Amane did not pick her up. He did not mind that, but one had to say that Mahiru clearly looked strange. What did she teach you? Chitose definitely taught Mahiru something, so Amane asked as he stared at her intently. Mahiru, sitting at the side of the sofa, turned her head gingerly like a rusted machine. Bingo. Amane did not intend to let her off, so he sat next to her, put his face close, and Mahiru tried to physically escape. Nothing. Obviously there's something. You would have told me if there is. You would have done that at least, he whispered. But Mahiru did not look at him. He wrapped his arms before her, with her back turned him, and brought his lips to her ears. Mahiru. He gently called her name, as though breathing into it, and she clearly shivered. He deliberately did so, knowing she was sensitive to voices at her ears, and it was super effective. He continued to embrace Mahiru, seemingly wrapping her, and called for her again, and her body became loose and limber, melting away. He looked down at her as she leaned on his chest, and her face became increasingly rode, her damp caramel-colored eyes staring at him unhappily. "It is sleazy of you." "How so?" "You know my ears are my weakness. It is despicable of you to do so." "I don't think it's just your ears, right?" A man knew that Mahiru was ticklish, but he did not do so, for her mood might be ruined further if he did. He decided to attack with his voice this time, to coax out the answers from the dishonest Mahiru. He smiled impishly and she pursed her lips. She leaned on him and insistently turned her head aside, as though she was not going to say anything. She would have, "All right, if you're not saying, I'll pinch your mouth open." Pinch? Mahiru was flushed red for some reason, and the moment she met Amani in the eyes, she lowered her eyes bashfully. Amane only intended for a little joke with Mahiru. Perhaps she took it as sexual harassment? He felt it was not advisable to keep teasing her as she was pouting away, so he put his hand on her back. She then turned around completely. Her eyes looked a little moist, and for a moment, Amane had an urge to groan. Instead, he decided to pat her head. "Just joking. I won't force you." "Joking? I'm not going to do stuff you hate. You don't have you say it if you want to. But don't take Chitosi's words seriously." Chitos definitely was prompting Mahiru to be proactive, but it would be horrible if they got too enthusiastic and Amane could not control himself. Mahiru should pace her herself. His mental state and body aside, they would be together for a long, long time, and there was nothing to be anxious above. So he implied, but she frowned a little. "Chitose-san did tell me some benefits of romance." "Heh. How so?" I cannot say so, but Chitose-san has a lot more dating experience and told me lots of useful things. For I think that's unnecessary knowledge. I shall decide if it is unnecessary." Aman could not refute that, but even though he felt that it was better to let things progress little by little, rather than ingrain Mahiru with strange knowledge that would leave her tense and try to do some strange challenge. "Now what do I do?" He shrugged, and she lowered her head slightly. "Is it unnecessary for me to of ways to improve the bond with the one I love, to love more than before?" Amane then understood from the disappointed voice that he misspoke. Mahiru's perspective was to improve her relationship with Amani when she sought out Chitosi's advice, but that was deemed unnecessary, which devastated her. He did not want to hurt her, nor make her sad, but it was a fact that his words hurt her. He wanted to reach out to her in apology, but at the next moment, he felt an impact. He tumbled onto the sofa as it was too sudden. For some reason, Mahiru was on top of him, or to be precise, pining him down. A pair of mischievous eyes were looking down through the dangling bangs falling due to gravity. "Chitose's idea," she said, "I am not proactive enough." "Oi, that's on a physical basis. Was that an act just now, Missy?" "No, I am sad." Amane felt guilt in his heart once he heard the remark accompanied with a wry smile and inadvertently wrapped his arms around her back. Mahiru's face fell onto his clavicle. "Whoa," she called out, but he continued to embrace his adorable girlfriend. The softness excited him from inside out, and the shampoo fragrance summoned his heartbeat. His doting tendencies still outweighed them, however. "Sorry, I shouldn't have said unnecessary stuff. I'm just worried that Chitose said something too suggestive. I think it is not that bad, for now. I'm worried about this for now part. But more importantly, it's your choice to accept Chitose's suggestion. Personally, though, I think it's a pointless suggestion." "Pointless? It's just me. But I want to understand each other little by little, and progress. It doesn't feel right to just look into the future and not enjoy the present time and mood." "You can say I'm a coward, though." He quipped wryly and sighed. He understood that Mahiru seemed to have taken Chitose's suggestion as the trigger, and understood that Mahiru really loved him. He was glad about that. However, he felt that it was not right to ascertain their love physically. "Sorry, it's embarrassing for me to say that, but I'm just a coward." "No, I understand that you love and treasure me. Aman Kuner, personally. I am not exactly looking to escalate things that quickly. I am just worried if you hate me. Hate you? For making you wait. Mahiru clung onto Amane, fidgeting and seemingly a little embarrassed. Amane understood what she wanted to say, and showed the most bitter of all smiles. It was not directed at Mahiru, but to himself, who had little patience. Not at all. Of course I have many thoughts as a guy, but it's not like I have to force my way. Also, you're scared, aren't you? Yes. It doesn't matter then. Let's just go at our own pace. Aman patted Mahiru's head, and she smiled and seemingly relieved before shushing his lips. Amane blinked away, and Mahiru smiled. Little by little, I think I can take the initiative to kiss you. Her smiling face was redder than usual as she said impishly. She really was more adorable than ever. Once he accounted for how much courage she had to muster despite her frustrations. Mahiru bashfully kissed Amane, and he responded with a gentle kiss on her lips. Chapter 181, Results of the After-Vacation Tests. A week later, the test results were announced. Mahiru's name remained at the top, as expected. She was not being prideful as she looked at it, and smiled once she noticed Amane's stare. She was giving the angelic smile shown to outsiders, but one could see the trust and love she had for him. Yep, congrats for getting first. Thank you very much. You've always getting the results because you work hard. That's great. Mahiru had always been taking care of Amane, but she seemed so casual about getting first. Obviously, it was due to the knowledge she built up, along with her relentless hard work. She often did revision and supplementary questions whenever she was with Amane, and memorized her flashcards. She never slacked in her studies as far as Amani could see. You say so, but you are fifth this time. Aman-kun. Thanks to you for teaching me well. Fufu, thank you for the thanks. I do enjoy teaching you when you understand things so well. Well, thanks. How is your student usually like? She is amazingly focused when she is in the mood, but she does seem to be worried about what she is bad at. That's so Chitose. On a side note, Chitose was ranked around the middle. It seemed the personal notes did come in handy. Itsuki too had a better rank than usual, around 20th or so, which showed how much hard work he put in. He might usually look frivolous, but he was capable if he put in some effort, which he did. I believe she is relieved for the time being. We'll check the answers once we get our papers back. Better to find the mistakes and correct them before they become habit. Of course, it is a good thing to be so studious. I don't want to embarrass myself while being next to you. Amane had no outstanding athletic ability and was not capable of creating a mood like Itsuki. He was relatively handsome, but not as outstanding as Mahiru's God-given looks. They loved each other and dated after understanding each other. Others, however, might not be able to accept this. Thus, Amani was working hard as much as he could to shush the talking heads around them and to be able to stand up right next to him. Studying was part of it. And the higher our scores, the more opportunities we'll get. Opportunities? Like the kind of jobs we'll like to do? Grades were not everything, but the better the grades, the more opportunities to choose an environment suitable for himself. His parents had him study to get good grades, to ensure that he had more options, that when he had things he wanted to do, he could develop in that direction, assuming he could. Once he met this condition, he would not suffer or regret it in the future. Aman's parents understood that he was studying on his own volition, and knew that more opportunities would arise with better grades. That was why they did minimal reminder. Despite that, they did teach him to seize the opportunity, to pull it towards him, and to study well and not regret in the future. I see. You have the pragmatism and foresight. You should. Think about it. I'm a guy. My pride's gone if I ended up being raised by you even though I want to support you. Amane's life was completely reliant on Mahiru, but his little dignity would crumble if this would include financial need. He hoped to have more than excess funds to support Mahiru. My hard work has meaning since the one I'm working for is that outstanding. So sorry. No, just remain as you are. I'm telling myself to work hard. I shall tell myself to cheer you on. We will be going through the answers. No? Mahiru chuckled as she gently pinched at Amani's hem, and he nodded, returning to the classroom with her. Chapter 182, Invitation to Stay Overnight. So, cushion as a reward. Is that fine? They returned home, had dinner, and started going through their mistakes. Mahiru was explaining the mistakes when Amane suddenly asked. Once she heard the word cushion, she looked up from the notebook, and her eyes started fluttering around. Ooh, I want that cushion. Well, if you want it, here. And also, anything else you want? Nen? Not really, Mahiru seemed to have difficulty spitting it out, so Amani gently patted her head, hoping to get her to calm down for the time being. She would never stubbornly ask for anything, so since she had something she wanted, it was natural for him to oblige. Mahiru showed a relaxed smile while being comforted, only to bashfully lower her head. Are you free on Friday? I don't have anything special planned. In that case, I wish to do what we talked about. Talked about? To stay over. The slightly trembling voice betrayed something completely unexpected. Amane unwittingly widened his eyes and stared at Mahiru. Chitosa's idea. Nen, not at all. I was the one who suggested to stay over, and Chitose-san merely gave me a nudge. I am saying this because I want to be with you, Amane-kun, not because someone has told me to. I see you stay over? Yes. Mahiru shriveled and embraced the cushion tightly, for what she might say next seemed to be too embarrassing, and Amane scratched his cheek in joy and embarrassment. Taken aback he was. Amane did not dislike it, and instead yearned for him. He was more than glad to imagine the bliss of embracing Mahiru to sleep. The problem, however, was to what extent he could endure this. Well, I'm glad. But you never thought about what I will do. I will accept it if you wish to. Amane-kuni, you will bear responsibility. Of course, I'll take you in even if it's not. Thank you, So this is a trial run for us to sleep together in the future. They were already cohabiting, somewhat, but sleeping on the same bed was a little different. Mahiru was to spend a night at her boyfriend's place for the first time as the girlfriend. So she was really embarrassed to mention this. We cannot. That's not it. Why do you think I'll refuse? I'm more than happy. Amane was shocked as it was too sudden of Mahiru to mention it, but Amane intended to agree. He was glad that Mahiru needed him and that she could accept him. Of course, he did not intend to do anything. He was more than content that Mahiru was willing to entrust her all to him. Mahiru was clearly delighted and bashful about being accepted. Same as usual, she cupped the cushion and lowered her eyes. I am looking forward. Yeah. They nodded stiffly. Friday, huh? They were just going to spend a night together, and they did sleep together. But his heart was still pounding wildly, and he felt so nervous. Perhaps it was because they were determined to do this as lovers, to sleep on the same bed. He was embarrassed even though he did not intend to do anything, and the passive Mahiru might be Moreso. Mahiru blushed, but did not retract her words. Aman quietly swore to himself that he would train his sanity a little before Friday. Chapter 183, Overnight and Suggestion. She was staying over at his place, but it was nothing too different from their daily lives, just that Mahiru was not returning home. It was Friday, the day Mahiru would be staying over. Everything went normally, other than the fact that Mahiru was a little over-concerned. As usual, they went to school, the supermarket on the way home, and then home. Everything remained the same until dinner. But once they were done with dinner, it was different. Mahiru, go take a bath. I'll handle the rest. Mahiru was going to stay over. Usually she would return home after they chatted away. On this day, however, he intended to have her bath first. The reason was simple. Mahiru needed a lot of time to clean up, and it would benefit her to get an early bath. She clearly stumbled once she heard the word bath. She probably was concerned about that. Oh, that. You'll take a long time to wash your long hair, right? I think you should go first. That is the case, eh? Anything inconvenient? Mahiru stammered, and a man made sure to sound as gentle as possible as he asked. She bashfully lowered her eyes. Shihoko-san and Shuto-san both bathe together, yes? Well, yeah. I do not mean for anything else. Nothing else, but I want to bath together. For a moment, Amane could not react to the trembling, teeny-weeny voice of his lover and stared at her. Together, as in, of course they would not be wearing anything in the bath. Naturally, she meant that they would expose everything to each other. Amane would really lose control of himself if they did this. He believed he would enjoy her tender skin. Mahiru was being more aggressive than usual, and Amane could not hide how perturbed he was. He scratched his nearly searing cheeks, his eyes wavering around. And no, won't anything happen if we're naked? Ah, I brought a swimsuit. It is fine. You already planned that? Please do not make me say so. In other words, one part of the plan to stay over was to bath together. There was a 80 to 90% chance of it being Chitosa's idea. Mahiru would refuse to do anything she hated. So this request was something she wanted. She admired how Aman's parents really got along with each other, and probably hoped to experience the manner they naturally bathed together. Aman was obviously glad to hear her intentions and that she trusted him. Despite that, it burdened his heart and sanity too greatly. You mean you know I'll be touching your body quite a bit, right? We will have to do so when we scrub each other's backs. Okay. And I always wanted to touch yours, Amani-kun. I always wanted to care for your hair seriously. I see. He had been wondering why she took too many belongings. It seemed she brought care products for Aman's hair. She always wanted to use beauty products on him, like face masks, nagging at how he let his hair dry. Her thoughts were not exactly unexpected. He never expected her to actually think of bathing with him. I'll wear a swimsuit too. Make sure it's all peaceful. Is that okay? Yes. You sure? A lady does not need to be told twice. A guy should be saying that, so Amani thought. But he did not want to ignore her intentions, since she suggested so after having made up her mind. Simply put, Amani just had to endure. He had discovered this side to her, and he too admired how his parents got along so well. He thought that bathing together was a good start, and they should be about to bond better as long as he could control his impulses. He had stuffed the swimsuit deep into his closet, thinking that he would not be wearing it again after summer vacation ended. He recalled where it was, suppressed his pounding heart, got it, and answered so. Chapter 184. Bath and Hair Care. Amane put on the swimsuit, entered the bath, and felt so tense and restless. Mahiru said she would need time to put on her swimsuit, so she had Amane go in. The more Amane waited, the more his heart pounded. He did see Mahiru in a swimsuit before, but it was the first time they would be alone in a cramped space, making contact. He was more nervous than delighted in this sense. In any case, would not a couple bath together only after they did the deed? So Aman wondered, and felt ticklish and embarrassed inside. His body was already hot before he could soak in the hot water. He yearned for Mahiru to arrive earlier, and yet hoped for her not to arrive. He felt so conflicted, not understanding why, and pursed his lips. Then, he heard the door creak open behind him. He turned his head around gingerly, and his lover with a dazzling skin was staring at him timidly. He froze the moment he caught sight of her, but that was to be expected. Is this what Chitosi's talked about? He remembered Chitosa mentioning that Mahiru bought 2 swimsuits. The one worn this time was not the type seen when they went to the pool. She was wearing a black bikini which formed a stark contrast to her glistening white skin. There was no excessive decoration on it, just a simple cloth covering her skin. It was not particularly risque. Despite that, she just looked so sexy, probably because of her fine body. After all, the only word to describe her was exquisite. No excessive fats, fine slopes on the lumps, smooth curves on the waist, and taut, tender thighs. Such were the ideal of a girl. She looked so alluring even as she bashfully covered her front with her arms. They were gathered at the cleavage, forming a wondrous sight to a male. But it looked so awkward to him in this situation. Is it strange? No, not at all. It suits you, well, it's too stimulating. Amane eked out this voice, and Mahiru clearly blushed. This is why I did not wear it at the pool. It is embarrassing showing this to others. So why did you buy it? Because Chitoshi-san said that Amane-kun will not fall if I do not go this far. What do you want to fall? If his sanity fell, Mahiru would be the one in trouble. It seemed Mahiru did not understand these words from Chitoshi, put a hand on his forehead, and looked towards Mahiru again. Anyone will fall in the face of that thing. Mahiru was so destructive in such a state, and Amane was about to get down on his knees, going all see no evil. However, he could not do so, of course. He took a deep breath, trying to regain his calm, and looked towards Mahiru's face, not down below, which could allow him to calm down further. So, now what? You're going to take care of my hair? Yes, I brought all the equipment. I see, just do as you please, but it's still embarrassing. Same for me. And I was the one who suggested this. Mahiru did not manage to hide the blush on her face completely, and her eyes too wavered due to the sight of Amani in his swimsuit. She seemed to have made up her mind, for she took out something appearing to be a hair care product from the waterproof bag. Anyway, shall we start? Yes, please do. Aman too would feel awkward if he kept staring at Mahiru, and it would be great if she could move out of his sight. He obediently sat on a chair, his back turned towards Mahiru, and heard a little groan. Perhaps this too was awkward. However, she did not stop her preparations, and there was some rustling heard from behind. First, we comb the hair. Okay. Mahiru sounded a little hesitant. Once she said so, she waited for Amane's response, and then slowly inserted the comb into the hair. She was very delicate, as far as he could feel. It is very important to start off with combing to remove the excess dust and grime, and wash off with hot water. I see. I don't like the hassle though, so I never comb the hair before then. Your hair is short and does not tangle together easily. That is why you will not think of combing first. For us girls, we have to do this first. Guess you definitely put in lots of effort to have such pretty long hair. Mahiru's hair grew past her waist, had no split ends, and was glossy. The silky smooth surface was so beautiful, many a girl would have admired so. It's definitely tough to maintain hair like this. Aman felt impressed, and heard a wry chuckle from behind. I already have good hair to begin with, so I do not need to spend that much effort, but I do pay some attention. A pretty person remains so no matter what she wears after all. Well, you're a girl after all. I want to be proud of myself. Mahiru said, finished combing, and picked up the shower head. Aman glanced aside, understood that she was going to wash his hair with hot water, and gently closed his eyes. I shall begin, she muttered, started the hot water, and rinsed Amane's hair. I shall soak it once through. It is best to do so before styling your hair. So the lecture begins. You already have good hair to begin with, Amane-kun. It will be better if you spend some effort to care of it. Why does it feel like a hassle to do this every day? Force, you cannot lax on this. Goodness, a dumbfounded voice came. The tension and shame might have faded a little during this hair wash, for neither of them were being stiff, and they were conversing as normal. We'll be doing so when we bath together in the future. Let's just ignore this for now. Amane found it a hassle, and was too lazy to do so, thus his comments. However, Mahiru froze with the shower head in hand. After 10 seconds or so passed, Mahiru finally recovered and switched off the water. She then silently rubbed the shampoo in her palms, and this sight flashed by on the mirror. Mahiru-san, you speaking of this so naturally is a flaw. Amane-kun. Mahiru summoned bubbles and rubbed his hair. Her face was really red. Aman sensed that she was not acting as delicately as before, but wondered if he was overthinking it. I am glad. But you cannot nitpick at Shihoko-san anymore. Amon had a vague idea of what Mahiru was getting at, and was a tad later in understanding what he did, so he too blushed. He did see his parents bath together, and was dumbfounded that many times. At this point, he said they would be bathing together every day once they got married. Truly, he could no longer laugh at his parents anymore. I will feel awkward if you do not zip your mouth, Amane-kun. I'll pay attention. The shame that finally subsided blared up again. Both parties were left red-faced and silently focused on washing their hairs. Chapter 185: Bathing and Scrubbing. Once the hair was thoroughly cared for, Mahiru seemed a little hesitant as she took out the bottle labeled as shower cream. Well, same for the body. Amon understood what Mahiru meant, and sensed his body getting tense. Well, I'll handle the front, just the back. That is fine. It would be really awkward if he let her wash the front. Thus, he allowed her to do as she wanted, and did not refuse her offer to wash the back as she said she wanted it. He saw Mahiru nod bashfully in the mirror, and for the time being lowered his head. Mahiru kept forming bubbles behind him, and there was the sound of fabric being rubbed. He was painfully aware that it was awkward and unbearable to have only breathing sounds and scrubbing noises in the bathroom. Let us start then. Mahiru probably was done lathering bubbles, for she said timidly, and a soft, bouncy sensation returned his back. Amane knew it was the shower cream that was lathered, but it was a male's instincts to wonder if they touched, especially when she was up close, wearing a bikini. The feeling of the bubbles spread gently on his back, feeling ticklish. Amane felt anxious partially because of Mahiru's delicate movements, but more importantly because the bubbles were applied gently. He usually would not spend the effort doing so himself, so he was not used to it. "Your back is unexpectedly big, Amane-kun." Amon heard a teeny-weeny voice as she washed the back and scrubbed away the grim. "Unexpectedly, you say, but mine's definitely bigger. It is this big because it is you. I am relying on your back after all." He felt a palm gently pressed near his shoulder blade. "Do you remember? You carried me when I twisted my ankle." "Yeah, I do. When you got hurt saving a cat. I was really happy back then, though I did not express it out. Well, you had nowhere to go. You always find me till now. I do think that you will always find me, Amane-kun." Mahiru's palms slid on his back and wrapped around onto his chest. The distance between them became 0. Mahiru continued to stick onto Amane and put her lips on his shoulder. Amon felt the incomparable softness and mass covered in bubbles, and sighed. "I'll carry and support you however you want if you wish for it. Besides, I promise to keep an eye out for you. I won't let you run away." "Yes, but it's bad for me to carry you now, especially with what we're wearing. If possible, please move away." Amane hinted that they touched, and Mahiru shivered a little, but she showed no signs of letting go. "I wish for you to be by my side. You not have to carry me. I will not burden you entirely. We shall move forward, side by side." "Sure. And it is said you will be happy, Amane-kun." Chitosi. Her and her stupid ideas again. Amani instinctively groaned. "Chito-san merely suggested, but I wanted to do this." But Mahiru said as she latched onto Amani's body with both hands, ensuring that he did not frown anymore. Instead, Amani pried away her arms for the time being. He turned around and saw Mahiru widen her eyes, seemingly taken aback. He embraced Mahiru up front instead. Chitos suggested that you hug me, right?" "Yeah, yes. I'll add on to that guys prefer to be hugged from the front. This alone should be fine." Amani convinced himself as he embraced Mahiru's soft, silky limbs that were covered in bubbles, whispering into her ears. She instantly turned limp and tumbled. She blushed, and he took the bubble net she used, lathering it next to her. Amane-kun, we were going to scrub each other's backs, right?" I think I have the right to do that to you. What about you?" He deliberately hushed his voice, and she shivered. "I did," she answered with teary eyes. Amon made sure not to betray his own embarrassment as he chuckled. "That's fine. Mahiru was being extraordinarily aggressive and seized the advantage. Aman could not remain passive. He knew she would run away if she hated it, so he gently put the bubbles onto her back. As expected, her back was more delicate than his. He was impressed by how she took care of her own back. It tickles. I think your entire body is a weakness. Aman knew that Mahiru's ears were a weakness, but he did not expect her back to be one. It seemed that she was weak on every part with the skin. She would shiver on mere contact with the neck, and she probably was the overly sensitive type. He touched her back, and at most the waist, through the bubbles, but Mahiru pursed her lips as she shivered, and at the next second, glared at him. Yo, you are too much. I wouldn't have done this if you didn't say to scrub each other's back. But. Shihoko-san and Chitose-san both did. Don't compare us to those with kids and experience, though it's too late to say that. Mahiru invited, and stated it. Aman merely did the same. Try looking from the side of the one being pushed around. Amani scrubbed Mahiru's back, and she gave up on resisting. Her face was completely red as she obediently leaned on Amani. Chapter 186. Entering the bath together. Sorry about that. Aman Lee leaned on the bathtub, and Mahiru was on the other side. Amani apologized, and she pursed her lips, looking completely unbemused. Amain cautiously washed her back thereafter, and she probably found it unbearable, for she slipped away while he was doing so. She would not say anything while he washed her hair, and even after they were done, she remained silent while they soaked in the water. It seemed Amane overdid it. Mahiru escaped from Amane, cupped her knees, and sat on the other side of the bathtub. There were a few little rubber duckies floating on the bath, which she probably brought along. She clearly expressed that she was in a really bad mood, and Amani scratched his cheek. Sorry for overdoing it. You were not being kind to me. Your reactions were too adorable, so I accidentally patted you too much. I'm really sorry. And you played with my ear. That's because you're cute. No. Saying that I played with your ears sounds so wrong. You bit on my ear. Please reflect on your actions. I'm doing so. Mahiru kept shivering as he washed her back, capitalizing on her weakness that was her back. Amani was really sorry about it, but he could not resist once he saw her look up at him with teary eyes. I do not want such a mischievous person. Sorry, I'll be very gentle next time, so please don't be angry, will ya? Amane made up his mind that he would tell Mahiru he would dote on her, and though Mahiru looked somewhat unwilling, she cautiously leaned onto him. Her eyes wavered for a while, as though wondering where they should go. She seemed to have made up her mind, however, and sat between his legs. She then leaned her back onto his chest and pursed her lips. Amain smiled once he saw this. Please use me as a chair, princess? Certainly Amani-kun no baka, Mahiru said, still a little peeved, and then she seemed to be deflated as she leaned onto him. It is unfair that I am being teased by you. I want to do something to you. Like what? This is what I am wondering. You do not have any real weakness, Amane-kun. Unlike you, who's weak everywhere, it is not that ridiculous. It is only because I am touched by you, Amane-kun. Aman unwittingly smiled once he heard such complimentary words. She hasn't realized that her words are so cute. The only way to show one's weaknesses would be trust and love. Her telling him that it was because of him made him ever so relieved. It feels like you are having it easy. How despicable. It's really not. Really? You seem to be coping well. Mahiru turned around, put her face on Amain's chest, and he gently smiled. He might be able to look calm and could dismiss the flushed face as him being in hot water. But the heartbeat could not be disguised. The heartbeat that was much faster than usual had her blinking, and she lifted her head. So I say, I'm not handling this well. He was bathing with the first and only girlfriend he had, and there was no way he had no thoughts about it. He wanted to touch and even pry apart the coverage. He did not do so as he did not want to hurt her, for the sake of their future, and immediate action might not be appropriate. That might be the reason as to why Itsuki called him a coward. Amane, however, wanted to be overly cautious, given his personality, and take it step by step. It was to be expected of him. I thought you would be used to it. What used? I want to touch, do this and that. I'm just enduring. Do this and that. Mahiru's face immediately turned red, and one had to wonder what she was thinking. Amane showed a wry smile, was about to pat her head, and found her staring at him. She sat down once again, leaned her back onto Amane's, pulled his elbow from the edge of the bathtub, and wrapped it around her. The unexpected embrace posture had him stiffened, and she turned around, showing a meek yet impish smile. This little bit is fine. I see. Is it not enough? More than enough. I'll start then. Once he got her permission, a man took the initiative to embrace her. His arms and body felt her slender figure, and he let out a little breath. He put his chin near the whirl of her hair. Please do no put all your weight onto me. And Mahiru said with a little smile. I know. Amane quietly noted and gently patted her little shoulder. She then let out a little breath, feeling ticklish. It is warm. Yeah, your clutches feel so peaceful. Your heart isn't racing. It is a given. Is your heart racing now? Yes, it always has been. It would be bad to keep touching. Amane already knew that Mahiru's heart was beating wildly. The moment he thought she was being aggressive, she would shrivel in embarrassment, and her heart would palpitate whenever she showed such a side. Mahiru earnestly admitted her current situation, and Amane smiled, leaned forward slightly, and clung on. She did not evade, and merely shivered in slight embarrassment. Will you heart race faster if I do this? It will, but, at this point I wish for you to hug me more. Mahiru's face was flushed red as she said these words. Her head was lowered, and she seemed really flustered. The request was too adorable that for a moment, Amane felt his blood boiling. He gently wrapped his hand onto his lover's belly to fulfill her adorable wish and embraced her further. He knew why she was shivering, but it was to be expected. Is this fine? Yes. Can I let go now? No need. I wish to be in your arms, Amane-kun. Once she said these adorable words, she gently touched the arms wrapped around her stomach. Actually, I do not dislike it when you touch me. Amane-kun. I like it, in fact. But I too do not want to be overly enthusiastic in doing so. Is it not contradicting? No. Amane had a vague idea of what Mahiru wanted to say. She probably would have accepted it if Amane wanted to do anything. However, she did not actively desire to bond, and merely wanted to feel the warmth and touch. Amane, too, had his own desires, but that desire was thoroughly satisfied with such mere contact. He was unexpectedly satisfied to be able to spend such peaceful days with the one he loved. Look, I'm not really actively looking to do something. This will be enough. Really? Yeah, but I want a kiss. They were in a fine mood, but a kiss should be fine, since they were already in such a dire state. Mahiru tensed up for some strange reason. The moment she heard the word kiss, though. Can we not do it now? You don't want to. Not exactly, but I think I will pass out from heatstroke if I kiss you here, Amane-kun. Have you not been kissing me for a longer time recently? Once he heard Mahiru mutter, is that case? Amane recalled the past moments and sank into deep thought. At this moment, Mahiru slapped his shoulder. Anyway, once we are done bathing. Understood. I'll dote on you all day long, okay? It seems like you are trying to melt me instead of doting. Busted. Amane chuckled at Mahiru's somewhat rigid retort, and his arms were slapped at by a peeved-looking Mahiru. However, she seemed to be pouting rather than fuming, and he embraced her once again, ensuring that she would not notice him laughing at her. Chapter 187. Out of the bath. Once they were done bathing, Mahiru chased Amane out to the living room, wanting him to get changed. According to her, it would take her a lot of time to care for her skin and change clothes, and she did not want to show Amane that Aman could only obediently abide since she said so, and steadied his uneasy heart and body as he got changed. He waited for her at the living room. Everything was fine till this point, but half an hour passed. Aman opened the notebook with the notes on it and started reading his notes with the TV sounds as background. He wanted to call out as Mahiru really took her time, but the moment he lifted his head, Mahiru appeared on the corridor. It was to be expected, but she was wearing her nightwear. It was autumn, but the heat still lingered, and the air conditioning remained a must. It was to be expected as to why she seemed to be bearing more skin. She did not reveal that much, and the black bikini did show more than this. However, the fact that she did not reveal much instead gave an alluring side. What? What is it? Is it really strange? Mahiru fidgeted as she was stared at. She was wearing a one-piece nightwear, or a negligee. Aman did see the negligee during the initial stayover, but there was comparatively little fabric. The sleeves remained the same, just that they were slightly shorter, revealing the knees slightly, along with a wider collar that could show the neck. It was not especially transparent, and the curves were not particularly emphasized. She looked so strangely alluring at this moment, for she had just came out of the bath, along with the fact that she had no extra fat, which made her look so innocent. No, it really suits you. Very adorable. Really? I guess I did not pick the wrong one. You chose it for me? I feel that you probably would prefer this simple, cute one. It seemed she understood Amani's preference of clothes after having been together for so long. Amani knew that anything would look good on Mahiru and would not instruct her to wear anything in particular, but he preferred the innocent type. Mahiru understood this and chose a very conservative-looking clothing that revealed little. Chitose-san recommended one that exposed much, but that is a little embarrassing. You have that? It is because days ago she demanded that I buy it. It seemed they bought it after exams ended. This proved that Mahiru had planned to stay over, or rather, she planned to stay over from that point. It is a little too early. Ooh, I cannot do so. Oh, that means you're going to wear it for me one day? Aman asked mischievously, and Mahiru turned red immediately, lowered her head as she shivered. If you wish to look, she whispered. She would shrivel for a short moment whenever he bullied her too much. Just joking. Amain shrugged and chuckled, and Mahiru kept her head low as she scampered towards Amain, sitting next to him. He looked aside and found the red-faced Mahiru looking at him with moist eyes. Nen, not that I am unwilling. It is just awkward. I get that. You don't have to be so desperate. You're making it sound like I'm the one causing you to cry. I am not crying. It is just awkward. I get that you don't have to push yourself. So Amani thought, but if that happened, Mahiru would surely shrivel and shiver, but that was fine. He personally felt that she could wear it for him when she wanted to. Mahiru let Amani pat her head and console her for a while. But really, you spent quite some time in there. He asked once the redness on her face faded. Mahiru lifted her head, and her eyebrows dropped a little. I need to take care of my skin and dry my hair. I see. Your hair's very long after all. Her hair was beyond waist length, and needed a much longer time to dry compared to Amain's. Furthermore, she had to care of it, which would require more time. You say that, but you have not dried your hair. Got mesmerized with studies. I have told you many times that you will damage your hair if you leave it be. I did bring my hairdryer over so that we can use it separately. Goodness. Mahiru sighed with dismay, covered Amani's hair with the towel dangling on his shoulder, and rubbed off the moisture. The hair was mostly dry, however. You have to dry your hair well, so she coaxed. She carried that bag with her each other the bath, took out some unknown fluid, and brushed it through Amain's hair. She then continued to rub the liquid in her hands and spread it inside out of his hair. Your hair may be fine since it is so smooth, but you can be prettier if you care for it a little more. It is a pity, are you listening? I am. You're really amazing, Mahiru. Say, you are not listening. She went behind him, cutely scolded him, took a dryer, and blew it on his hair. Aman gently chuckled as he felt the warm, not too hot wind. I wonder if she'll be angry if I say that I'm waiting for her to do this. He was not complaining about the hassle, but he knew that she was very dedicated to it and hoped for her to do so on such days. But if he were to say it out, Mahiru might really be incensed in a cute manner. He kept those words to himself, closed his eyes, and enjoyed Mahiru's gentle artistry. Chapter 188. Out of the Bath, an Embrace. Mahiru dried Amani's hair, took care of it, and sat next to him, giving a long sigh. She leaned her body over, and Amani gently held her palm. "Thank you," muttering so. Amain merely touched the back of her hand gently, knowing that she was not tired, and was just fawning over him. He did not do anything more. "You are very patient during times like this, Amani-kun. So that means I usually don't?" I do not mean that. But you do dote on me whenever I fawn around, and I am especially glad. Then go ahead and do so. I'll be more than happy to spoil you." Spoiling the always hard-working Mahiru was truly enjoyable. After all, this overnight stay was a requested reward, and Ammon could not help but pet her. "Do you want me to pat you a little more?" he gently whispered, and she shyly lowered her eyes, putting her forward on Amain's elbow, rolling about. "I did experience that sufficiently during the bath. Any more, and I will melt. It's fine for you to melt. No worries, lest I be unable to stand up, because you do not know how to hold back." So Mahiru said somewhat emotionally, and Amani instead felt nonplussed, numb to it. "I think I'm holding back somewhat." Amani assumed he had been controlling himself from going overboard, or Mahiru from crossing the line. There were times when he got too carried away, resulting in Mahiru pouting away. He, however, did not go all out. He gave a wry smile as she butted with her forehead, and lowered his head to kiss her. "I want to pet you more, and turn you into water." Aman felt extremely agitated as he imagined Mahiru melting away, still unused to fawning around, showing a sweet face. He had nothing else in mind, and all he wanted was to see Mahiru looking happy, which would make him happy. However, a red-faced Mahiru shook her head vehemently. "I will die, especially when you say such words. Aman-kun. Especially. Nothing, please do not mind." "But I mind. I am fine. Either way, I am glad to be doted on, but please do not overdo it. It is stressful to my body." Mahiru inched her body away and turned her head aside. She probably wanted to look away from Amane, for she stared at the TV that had been running the entire time. Only the news was airing, which was pointless. She stared intently at it, however, for she might really be embarrassed. Truth be told, he really was delighted to see her so bashful and fidgety. She would never say that she hated Amane's affection for her. It was really adorable to see her resist so thoroughly. "You're easy to understand. Please be quiet. Will you do it for me?" Amane asked with a teasing intent, and Mahiru turned her head around gingerly. I did say that we will do so after bathing, but once more before we sleep." "All right." Amane felt it might be awkward for Mahiru to do so before they slept, but he was not bothered in the slightest. He remained silent and laughed it off. It seemed Mahiru had not considered that they could continue to do so on the bed, and with nowhere to escape. He patted her head, and she gave him a pout. "Why are you giving such a lecherous leer? You're overthinking it." "I am not. There is something to your leer." She slapped at him, and he lifted her by her back and knees to shush her, putting her on his knees. He touched the stiffened Mahiru. "You are definitely treating me like a child," she said somewhat spitefully, and headbutted his chest. She would never hold back before the one she loved. He knew of her naive personality, and that gesture looked ever so adorable to him. "So cute," he muttered as he cuddled her again, and Mahiru murmured away as she earnestly leaned on him. Chapter 189. Good night. 11 p.m., and Amain carried Mahiru into his bedroom. He just wanted to go to sleep, as it was soon to be bedtime, but Mahiru appeared tense in his clutches, and her body was a little stiff. "Don't worry, I won't do anything," Amani whispered. Put Mahiru on the bed, and she looked up at him with a blushing face. You do not need to carry me over." "You look sleepy." It's almost bedtime. You say so, but I always do wonder, am I not heavy to you? How weak do you think I am? Amane did at least do some muscle training and jogging, and trained so that he would not embarrass himself. He could at least lift Mahiru. He might have difficulty lifting her back when they first met, not because she was heavy, but because he was weak. I still need to carry you. I'm not that weak. Yes, I can't carry you over my shoulders, though, Amane joked. Mahiru widened her eyes and smiled. Once he saw Mahiru's lack of tension, he gently sat next to her on the bed. Her cheeks were slightly red, but she did not panic, and instead leaned over towards him. Amane knew it was her way of welcoming him, so he too showed a faint smile and gently embraced her up front. Anyway, you're not nervous without Kuma-san? The teddy bear he gave Mahiru was not part of her belongings on this day. It seemed she cuddled it to sleep every day, but one had to wonder what made this day special. So he looked at the caramel-colored eyes, and they dropped bashfully. I do not need it, for I have you today, and you will be jealous? Yeah, I'll feel awkward if you're looking at something else even though you have me, so just look at me. Yes, but you aren't looking at me. Her eyes were fixated near Amane's throat, and she probably was not looking at him. She lifted her head once she heard that. The slightly reddened cheeks were reminiscent of a fresh fruit, and Amane had the urge to bite. He might infuriate her if he really did so he merely kept the thought to himself and stared directly into the faltering caramel-colored eyes. How about a kiss? Mahiru might jolt in his clutches if he was too sudden, so he asked for her permission. The faint red intensified, and Mahiru's eyes wavered. However, she timidly nodded, probably having recalled their conversation at the living room. It seemed she did not dislike it to begin with. She closed her eyes and entrusted everything to Aman. However, she was shivering a little, probably because she was not used to it. The manner in which she shivered was as adorable as a little animal, and once he realized this, he smiled, exhaled, and with a slow movement that would not agitate her, he brought his lips onto her sealed lips. Mahiru was so soft and tender all over. So too were her lips, and they were damp, soft, bouncy, more vibrant than his. More importantly, there was a slightly sweet fragrance, probably coming from Mahiru herself. He gently pecked at the pink lips and enjoyed that softness slowly, really slowly. Whenever his lips grazed by and held hers, her body would shiver, but she never tried to escape nor show disgust, which showed that she probably accepted him. So cute. He looked at her face as he kissed her and saw a fine reaction. One moment she was ticklish, and the next she was comfortable. She might feel embarrassed, but it seemed she liked kissing. Aman did not show any worry and kissed her successfully. He licked her lips, and she quivered. However, he did not reach his tongue in and merely savored the sweetness, which caused her to relax and lose all tension. Her body and expression softened, and she was so adorable, Amane pecked at her lips once again. Once he savored her lips sufficiently, Mahiru slapped at his chest, seemingly indicating that she was at her limit. Upon being told to stop, Amane obediently moved his lips away. Mahiru was blushing, slightly panting as she glared at him. However, she remained somewhat dazed and was not looking intimidating in the slightest. That was a long time. Can't I? Not that you cannot. Aman got carried away as Mahiru had accepted this so comfortably. He would not have done so if she appeared unwilling. Truth be told, she would have escaped if she hated it. In other words, there was no way she did not enjoy it, since she accepted so. May I say something? Say what? You are so sleazy. What sleazy? Why are you so skilled at this? Your reaction tells me it's good. It seemed Mahiru assumed Amane had it easy, and she raised her eyebrows slightly. But Amane himself did not. He could count the kissing experiences he had, and gauged his actions based on her reactions. Even if he did not ask, it was clear that she would turn limp whenever he did so. He did pay attention whenever he kissed her. He wanted to indicate that he was paying attention to her when he kissed her, but she widened her eyes, and her face was red like fire. What, were you watching me while kissing? Yeah, it's really getting cuter. I know you'll feel comfortable like this, and I'm glad. Mahiru started whacking at Amani's chest with some strength, probably due to the embarrassment of being observed. However, it did not hurt at all, and it seemed she was not being serious. Please do not say such a thing, fool. You don't feel good? I feel blessed, but please do not make me say it. There are some things you need to say. You are teasing me now. No, I say. Ow, ow, ow. Amane could not tease her anymore as she was hitting him vigorously. He did not intend to tease Hara, actually, but Mahiru might have assumed so. Please do not bully me. Sorry, don't be angry. Amane patted her head, and she looked up at him, somewhat seething. Are you assuming that my mood will improve as long as you pat my head? It's not? It is, but I am not letting this slide. Too bad. Amane shrugged, and Mahiru looked miffed as she leaned onto his chest. Hug me, or I shall pout. Affirmative. It seemed that Mahiru wanted Amani to pamper her gently, rather than being miffed. She head-butted him, and leaned on him while acting angry. Aman was more than glad to oblige, and hugged her. This time, he did it gently and earnestly. He cautiously patted her back and hugged her. She buried her face into his chest for a while, and slowly lifted her head. After a few minutes, he checked to see if the face appeared pouty, and was a little relieved. You are sometimes mischievous. Sorry, I just want to dote. Just do it normally. Goodness gracious. Mahiru responded in such a manner, straightened her back, and wrapped her hands on Amane's neck. She then kissed Amane. It is unfair if I do not have a go for once, and whispered so to a dumbfounded Amane. Faced with the impish smile and voice, Aman buried his face into Mahiru's neck with a wry smile. You got to understand how destructive you are right now. It is unfair for you to do so alone. It is ticklish. Mahiru took the initiative to fight back, and Amane immediately panicked. He then kissed her neck to hide how rattled he was. A little whiff, and he scented upon an indescribable milky scent. They used the same shower cream, so this meant that this scent belonged to Mahiru in the first place. So fragrant. I do use some body lotion to keep myself moist. Maybe that is. It seemed the fragrance came from that body lotion, but Amani felt it contained some of her own scent. Even without doing anything, Mahiru would give off a sweet scent. She never laxed on taking care of herself, and her skin moisture remained. You're going to keep your skin smooth? I do pay attention to many other things, which is why I can maintain such a nice skin. Girls really have it tough spending so much effort. I am doing it for myself. You're right, girls like to dress up and make themselves look better after all. Mahiru was trendy and liked to dress herself. Even if she did not date Amani, her insistence towards beauty might never disappear. Amani had no illusion of wanting a girl who would dress up for a boy. He understood that Mahiru did so for herself, and could agree with what she said. This is one reason. But it seemed that was not the only reason, as Mahiru whispered. You mean there's something else? Well, it feels better to touch, right? Well, it's your own body. She would be the one touching herself most, so it would be great if her skin felt nice to touch. No, not that when you touch me, Amani-kun. And it was because of his prior conception, that he blurted out when he heard Mahiru's reply. I do not want my skin to be so parched when you touch it, that you will be disappointed. It feels comfortable to touch smooth, tender skin, no? Yes. Aman clearly faltered, not expecting her to have thought of letting him touch. Her face remained red, but Mahiru did not intend to retract her words. She latched onto Amani with more force, and shivered. Please do not be mistaken. I am doing it for you, Amane-kun, and also for myself, It is my wish to let you touch me more. Touch me more. The moment she uttered those words, Amane instinctively rolled onto the bed with Mahiru. Kiaya, a cute voice came from the lips, and Amane shushed the lips, a faint groan coming through the gap. He pried through the lips, as though sucking, and the sound was hoarse, delicate, and sweet. Mahiru might be at a loss as to what to do, and was hapless as she flailed her hands, seeking something to grab. Amane held her flailing palms with his, which seemed to calm her down, relieving the tension from her body. Or perhaps it was more accurate to say that she was limp, at a loss due to Amane's sudden actions. After savoring Mahiru, who had become so sweet for some reason, Amane moved his lips away. Mahiru was dumbfounded, gasping away, and looked up with a sweet expression. Amane looked down at her and narrowed his eyes. "You understand the consequences of saying this on the bed, right? I'm really nervous too." Amane uttered these words that could be read as sexual harassment or a reminder, and Mahiru's face turned completely red as she covered it with her hands. "You know I want to treat you well, to treasure you well, right? You know I want to spend some time to get used to it slowly, right?" Amane loved Mahiru, wanted to treasure her, and hoped to make her happy. And it was because of such thoughts that he endured, even though he knew he would not be hated if he acted. His sanity did not break even though they were clinging together in swimsuit. He did not push her down onto the bed even though the atmosphere seemed ripe. But Mahiru's words alone caused him to nearly bury himself headfirst into her. Rather than her being bad, it was Amane's fault for not being capable of enduring. He, however, hoped that Mahiru would not do anything that would flip his switch. Much kindness and uncontrollable passion were invoked in his eyes and voice. After coaxing her, Mahiru nodded away while still covering her face. "That's good, sorry for doing that so suddenly. You're shocked, right?" "I suppose so, yes. My heart was beating really fast." The sudden French kiss took Mahiru by surprise. She was still blushing and would not show her face. "Amane-kun." "Yes. Next time, please, be a little less intense." Mahiru did not refuse, and instead intended to do so a second time. Amane quietly pried aside her hands. As expected, she was red like a ripe apple, and he silently put his lips onto her. He gently and carefully doted on Mahiru, as she wished. The previous one was an impulsive deep kiss, and this kiss was to comfort the shriveled Mahiru, one gently wrapped around her lips, filled with much affection, melting her more than before. He slowly moved his lips away, looked down, and Mahiru glared at him with teary eyes, her face still limp as she gasped away. "I did not say now. I want it now. That's not good?" "You may, but you warned me just now." "I did. Goodness. Baka." So she pouted, but Amane knew she was hiding her embarrassment, so he chuckled and laid down next to Mahiru. He took the remote control by the pillow, switched off the lights, and clung onto her. Her fine body quivered, but only out of shame, and she instead took the initiative to lean her face into Amane's chest. "Thank you for treasuring me that much." "Yeah." Clear bliss seeped through her soft whisper, and Amane too gave a gentle smile as he embraced Mahiru once again. Perhaps they could take another step one day, but this would be enough for the day. Within his clutches was something he yearned to treasure, rather than act on impulse. "Good night." "Good night." After this little murmur, Amane embraced Mahiru and closed his eyes. Chapter 190. Good morning. Amane woke up in the morning, found Mahiru sleeping in his clutches, and exhaled a little. He turned his head towards the clock at the edge of the bed, ensuring that he did not shake, and saw it was 7 a.m. It was a rest day, and he did not need to wake up early. He intended to sleep an entire morning, and most definitely woke up a little early on this day. He did not think it was a bad thing, however, once he thought of how he had the time to see Mahiru, who had been sleeping blissfully. Mahiru was sleeping soundly, looking so innocent. She looked completely relaxed, probably because she was in Amane's clutches. Anyone seeing that adorable sight would be healed. So happy. Aman recanted the blissful moments only he could savor as he embraced and enjoyed her warm, soft body. He wanted to sleep just like that. He naturally felt his face relax as he looked at the face of his dear lover and maintained this expression. Then, Mahiru twitched. It seemed she was not awake, however, and merely inched a little, changing positions, and returned to his chest. She looked so adorable, and he quietly gulped. If only it's like this every day. Surely it was a blessed thing to be able to spend time together with the one person who mattered to him. However, The damage to his sanity would be abnormal if they were to remain together in this situation. Perhaps an occasional stay overnight would be fine. If she were to visit every day, Aman had no confidence that he would not love her all over. If possible, he wished to make contact only after they got used to it, when they got more intimate and when Mahiru hoped for it, and not to act on impulse. He endured with all his might, stroking her smooth hair silently with his fingers. Mahiru twitched once again, probably because the touch caused her to regain consciousness, and she lifted her head. The originally sealed eyelids were half opened, and caramel-colored eyes were revealed. She showed a sleepy look, and looked towards Amane's face in her delirious state, gave a fluffy smile, and buried her face into Amane's chest once again. "She's definitely sleepy." Aman quietly laughed, patted her back as though coaxing her. She laid comfortably for a moment, and finally regained consciousness as she looked towards Amani once again. Her eyes widened compared to before. "Good morning." "Morning. You enjoyed your sleep?" "Yes." Her face turned red immediately, and it seemed she remembered herself fawning with Amane even during her groggy state. Mahiru was so adorable, and Amani was more than glad to have her fawn, so he was fine with that. It seemed that she was embarrassed to show how numb and careless she was. Aman hugged her once again to console her, kissed her on the forehead, and the redness on her face intensified. "Aman-kun, you do not seem that embarrassed recently. It's just us two, can't we?" "No, not that you cannot, but it's too stimulating after I just woke up embarrassing, and awkward. I won't do that in the future then." "Ah, you're not feeling awkward." "Ooh, not that. You don't want me to do this again because you don't want to feel awkward. Not that you know what I mean, right? I don't want to do anything awkward that you hate." "Goodness. I want it." Mahiru was red-faced, shivering as she answered hesitantly, and Amain rubbed her head with a smile. "Sorry for teasing you too much, so you mean I can do it any time as long as it's not right after you wake up?" No, you are correct." "Is it a yes or a no?" Aman retorted mischievously, knowing what Mahiru wanted to convey, and kissed her on the forehead again. He was not exactly unashamed, but his endearment of her was strong, and he would act accordingly. Mahiru was one to easily feel uneasy, and it was better to express his love. He thought it was adorable how she was shivering away, so he cuddled her, and she wanted to escape the bed in embarrassment. Of course, Amane could not possibly let her leave, and locked her in his clutches. I want to prepare breakfast. Stay here a little longer." "But, no good? I want us to be together for a little longer." So he implied as he stared at her face, and her cheeks turned red, her eyes swimming. "Nen, not that you cannot." N. Once he was allowed, Aman embraced Mahiru gently once again, and she murmured away, burying her face into his chest once again. "How sleazy." "Sleazy, how?" "In various ways. You can push me off." "This is what I mean." "You know I cannot do so." Mahiru whispered with a pout, and rolled her forehead about on his chest. It seemed she was fawning around rather than pouting, though. Amane gently combed his fingers through Mahiru's hair, and she leaned over comfortably, her throat making a deep rumble. "Never thought she likes it when I fiddle with her hair," so he thought as he continued to do so. Mahiru let Amane continue for a while, and then lifted her head. She looked relaxed, relieved, but her lips were curled into a mound. "I will be in trouble if you turn me into a good-for-nothing Amani-kun. Best if you can become that only to me." Mahiru was always on alert outside. At this point, she was showing a little of her usual personality, but she had yet to discard her angelic actions. It was to be expected that he wanted to dote on her and melt her into a puddle of water. "Same to you, Amane-kun. I'm already one, just that it only happens when I don't have you." "That is good. I too will become a good-for-nothing without you, Amane-kun." Yes. Either way, Amani did become a good-for-nothing thanks to Mahiru, and vice versa. Aman smiled at Mahiru, who was in fawning mode, and cuddled Mahiru as he closed his eyes, hoping to drag on this little moment a little longer. Chapter 191. after the breakfast on the day after the stayover. They spent the night together, but after they woke up, they spent the time no differently from their usual weekends. Like usual, Amane had Mahiru's breakfast, washed his clothes, tidied up, swept around, and relaxed. Cleaning up had become a habit to him thanks to Mahiru, so his room was often clean, and he did not need to spend much time doing so, which he was grateful for. What's for lunch? We had some leftover meat sauce from the pasta, and I intend to use a little container to make lasagna. Another tedious dish. I shall make some white sauce. Is there anything else you want? Just do what you want. Everything you cook is delicious. Looking forward to them. Such a sweet talker. Mahiru giggled, but truth be told, her dishes really were delicious. Amane felt an ordinary high school girl would not be able to accomplish that much, and her dishes were better than any poor restaurant out there. Of course, this was his bias as her lover, but her cooking really was delicious, so much that Amane had no desire to go out to eat and wanted hers. Looking forward to it, he marveled, and Mahiru gave a perturbed smile. I guess I have to exhibit my skills now that you say so. Just the normal will do. I shall do my best since you are looking forward to it. Amane-kun. Please look forward to it. He was delighted to hear her say this, but Aman was sorry about having her work so hard, so he patted her while she sat next to him, getting her to relax. Mahiru, who was suddenly patted on the head, started to murmur, "Have you cultivated a habit of patting heads for no rhyme or reason?" But she did not look unwilling and let him play around. After patting for a while, Mahiru naturally leaned over, and he too cuddled her naturally, putting her on his lap, and she gave him a strange, reproaching look. "Why are you pampering me again?" "Because I want to cuddle something like this. I shall lend Kuma-san to you. I prefer Mahiru. Goodness me, this is special." So she said, and comfortably leaned on Amane, who chuckled as he pulled her to his chest, beginning to pat her head again. "Don't ever show those guys at school. I do not wish to let them see. It is only for you, Amane-kun." Thanks for that. Things would really got rowdy if the boys saw Mahiru completely melted and fawning away. Amane was the only one allowed to see this. Mahiru would never go to them, even if they did see it. But he would be peeved about them imagining her acting like that, so he had no plans to show. "Speaking of which, everyone knows that I'm your boyfriend, but there are some still trying to woo you. They are asking if I was threatened, wondering what kind of person you are. Those that don't understand me will think that I'm unimpressive. I will be angry if you say this again." That's what they say? I'm working hard to stay by your side so that they won't say anything. I have confidence. That is good. Just as Amane patted Mahiru on the head, so Mahiru repaid the favor. "I wish to spoil you too." Such was the attitude she showed, and Amane showed a wry smile as he let Mahiru pat his head on his lap. Chapter 192. Natural order of things for the two. Dozens of minutes passed until Mahiru, who loved to fawn and be pampered, retreated from Amane's lap. Her face was flushed once she realized that she took a bold position. Amane found her adorable and was comforted by her. Truth be told, she was not exactly on both his legs, just one, but the posture and distance had her increasingly embarrassed once. He saw Mahiru take on his shame and panic. He felt a little relaxed. "You could have told me to stop." "Ah, no, I just accidentally you're fawning so hard over me. There's no way I can tell you to stop. You should have reminded me at least. Don't put me in a spot." Amane's heart was really beating wildly as he enjoyed her embrace, so he too was powerless. However, he really should be not saying this to him. Mahiru frowned a little once she saw Amane play dumb, but she was the one riding on his lap, so she could not say much. "Goodness, I am unwittingly doing something so bold because I love you. Please limit yourself. Be careful. Those words are dangerous enough. I cannot help it. You know the extent of my feelings for you." "Well, yes, it's a little embarrassing hearing you repeat how much you like me." In a certain sense, these words caused him more shame than the posture just now. Aman thoroughly understood that Mahiru would instinctively do something very bold, but pinpointing this fact caused him an unspeakable sense of shame. Mahiru too blushed as she gently hit Amane. It seemed both sides got hurt. "You are not doubting my intentions, are you? Amane-kun, of course I know I'm the only one next to you, and you'll only care about me." Amane was confident about this one point. It was likely that Mahiru would not care for anyone other than him. Such was her personality, and Amane was confident that she was fond of him and even planned to pledge her future to him. She would always treasure him unless he did anything to annoy her, and she would continue to accompany him. He said it so confidently, and Mahiru's face got redder. She headbutted him. "That's a violent way of hiding your shame." Amane chuckled as he let her be. Truth be told, he too found it embarrassing, but Mahiru's actions allowed him to disguise his mood. "Good that you know." Mahiru stopped headbutting and leaned her forehead on his elbow as she grumbled. Of course, Amane too answered as he gently held the quietened Mahiru by her hand. Chapter 193. About the cultural festival event. After the exams came the most important event of the year, the cultural festival. Amane's school had a heavy focus on this event that required the participation of all students, and thus each class was given an ample budget and there were exciting events every year. "So let's decide what our class will be doing." Of course, all the students would decide what their class would do. The atmosphere certainly was lively. Standing at the podium excitedly was Itsuki. He who loved such festivals would obviously volunteer to be part the festival committee, but one had to be amused by how he actually got chosen. So, what we're doing for this culture festival. Before that, I'll like to point out that there's a fixed number of classes allowed to do food stalls. Basically, every class is planning to do food, so competition will be intense. We better get ready for it. Of course, there was a fixed number of food stalls to be allowed. F&B stalls were very popular, for they often were good chances to run a business, and every class might want to run one. This would mean there would only be food stalls, and thus a limit was imposed. Also, there was no way to satisfy the demand fully, due to hygiene concerns and space in the cooking classrooms. So check out the documents passed down. There's quite a few things listed that we might need to spend on, but we actually have them. Check through everything, even those that aren't written that can be suggested. Anyway, let's suggest stuff that can be done under this budget. If there's anything to suggest. Let's raise hands and speak up. Once Itsuki said so, the students started raising hands frantically. Their eyes were dazzling, and the importance of this activity was obvious. After all, the Culture Festival was a highly anticipated grand event. But I just skipped it last year. Amane was not as enthused as a student should be, and went through the cultural festival just like that. Back then, his class elected to sell handmade products, so he did as asked and tended to the stall during his time. He stared at the exuberant classmates from afar. Me. I recommend a cafe that's always a must for this festival." That's expected. Just an ordinary cafe? How about a maid cafe? Think about it. Sheena-san's in this class. It'll definitely suit us. The voices started to trail off at the end as they all looked towards Mahiru. Amane was a little peeved, but not to the point where he wanted to say something. Ha. I wonder if you guys considered the budget, but that's the enthusiasm I want. Let's add it to the list then. The boys got active at the idea of Mahiru in a maid outfit. Aman gave them a dumbfounded look and then met Itsuki in the eyes. The latter answered back with a "is this fine" stare, and Amane looked unwilling. He did have issues, at the very least. Mahiru usually stood out and was often the center of attention. Her cuteness had risen to another level recently, and her in a maid outfit would surely garner crowds, which she would have trouble dealing with. On the other hand, this would guarantee sales. Mahiru's existence was a sufficient advert, and the boys would surely swarm in just to have a look. As for the person herself, she showed an awkward, unspeakable smile once she was talked about. It was to be expected, for it was not a comfortable feeling to be taken as the center of attention. It was merely a suggestion, however, and a courtesy to not nitpick at it. Amane would refuse if Mahiru really disliked it. A maid cafe is really more male-oriented, but we have to consider the budget before that. All right, next. Itsuki led the class further, and everyone suggested a haunted house, curry and udon, stalls that sold the usual stuff for a cultural festival. The blackboard was gradually filled with white words, but everyone's, or rather, the boys' interest seemed to be on the maid cafe, for there were some hushed chatter. Shina-san in maid uniform, though. But that Fujimiya's around. Don't worry, Fujimiya's a guy too. He'll definitely want to see his girlfriend in maid clothes. Amane heard that, but unfortunately he disagreed. It would be a complete lie to say that he did not want to see that at all. But he did not wish to parade her around as a trophy. He did not want to insist on her wearing it, knowing how tired she would be. Amane glared at them, and they hastily looked away once they noticed. Mahiru giggled as she probably noticed, and Amane's eyes relaxed a little. Say, Amane, any suggestions? Itsuki suddenly asked, and Amane looked over in annoyance. Why me? You look like you have something to say. Amane did have something to say, but not to him. Nevertheless, the mere mention had his classmates looking at him, and he would ruin the mood if he did not. After wondering what he should do, he chose what seemed the easiest to him. If I have to put it, maybe we can investigate some local history and create an exhibit. The class quieted down once he said his idea. It was awkward, like a dampener. So why? I think it's good, though. Once we investigate all we have, we'll show a little exhibit, and then we get the free time to go around and enjoy the festival. We don't have to worry about the time, and can visit any class we want. I see. Such a sentiment echoed in the class once Amane changed his explanation. Amane did not think the students would be interested in local history, and he just wanted some free time after their preparations. A food stall would be popular, but it would definitely require lots of time, manpower, and labor. Money would be involved, and they had to tend to the stall, which would make things difficult. An exhibit, for example, could be set up during the preparation phase, and only 1 or 2 persons would be needed. A cultural festival had 2 days, one for each person, would not take up an hour, and manpower and time-wise would be very efficient. The most important thing, however, was that it would not generate revenue. Visitors could stand wherever they wanted. An exhibit would be easier for those who had no confidence in their service skills, looks, and culinary expertise. Aman was completely aware of this as an example. Say, it's really just like you. Itsuki did not hold back on how dumbfounded he was, and Amane merely stated his thoughts, turned aside, and shut up. Mahiru too looked over, her eyes basically stating it. Really is just like you. Amane-kun. Amane felt awkward, but he could only sigh as he could not retract the words he said. So the top vote goes to the maid cafe, so it's decided all right. For the time being, they decided on the maid cafe, which got the most votes from the boys. I'll report our decision to the student council, and we'll draw lots. If don't win, we'll choose the haunted house that came second. We'll also have to find someone who can get us the clothes, since the budget definitely won't be enough. You can ask anyone who knows about such stuff. Just remember that if we can't settle this, we'll just set up a normal cafe. The host Itsuki exhibited his natural, cheerful personality and capabilities as he swiftly stated what was needed, before leaving the classroom, probably for the student council. The mood in the classroom seemed upbeat, buzzing. Amane sighed as he had a hand under his chin, and then he noticed Mahiru approaching me. What about you? You say, but we've decided. Not like we got a choice here. Mahiru showed a wry smile, and Amane felt angsty even though they had no choice. Remember to voice your unhappiness if you don't want it. Not that I am unwilling, but Amane-kun, you dislike maid uniforms? Not exactly like or dislike, and I think it'll suit you. The apron already does. I see. I shall do my best. You don't have to force yourself. I shall wear it to make you happy. Amane-kun. Mahiru then showed a beautiful smile. The boys behind started giving victory poses behind, and Amane made sure not to give a numb smile. Chapter 194. Little Dissatisfaction. You don't look happy, Fujimiya. Katawaki joined in after school as it was a rest day from club activity. Amane then realized that his feelings were clearly shown on his face. Is my face that obvious? Nope, about the same as usual. It just feels like there's a little change from your usual demeanor. They were at the bookshop at the station, about to leave after buying their textbooks when Katawaki mentioned so. Amani instinctively reached for his cheeks, found his face to be stiffer than usual, it seemed, and his eyebrows were raised by a few centimeters. He did not wish to show his expressions excessively, but it seemed he was unable to control it completely. Feeling a little embarrassed and useless, he sighed. Well, sorta. I don't feel so good. I don't want her to be an exhibit, just to keep her to myself. Of course, there was no reason he would be happy to have his dearest girlfriend be the center of attention. There would be curious stares, along with some urge to covet. Mahiru doesn't look like she hates it, and I can't just oppose the class by asking for preferential treatment for her. That shows my immaturity. That's unfair on my part, and I can only shut up. There's something called peer pressure after all. I know how much Mahiru will contribute to our sales after all. I'm just unhappy that the risk might be way too much compared to the payoff. Sorry about that. It's not about you. It's my fault for not being able to explain what's good about my plan. Katawaki did not need to apologize at all. Amain, however, could not bring himself to blame the boys who suggested this. There was a lingering, nauseating anxiety. Guess we got no choice since it's decided. Amain gave a long sigh, and Katawaki showed a conflicted smile. I did vote for the exhibit. It's risk-free if we take a pragmatic look at it, and there's high return. At this point, I probably will be assigned to receive the customers. Ah, the reputed prettiest girl in school was asked to serve, and similarly, so would Katawaki, who was very popular with the girls. Katawaki hoped to stay at the back, but it seemed unlikely. That really rare, handsome face was a detriment in this situation. Are us guys supposed to wear maid outfits too? I don't think we'll be forced to do that. But since the girls are in maid uniform, the boys will be dressed as butlers, right? If only we can deal with the clothes. Ah, well, I heard someone in class knows of a person who manages a cafe. Maybe they can prepare clothes for the boys too. Oh dear, it was the worst intel for Amane, who wanted to avoid the maid uniform. Since they had no issues, Mahiru would surely serve food in a maid uniform. Fortunately, it seemed clothing was prepared for the boys too, and there was nothing to cause a tragedy of gender bias. Why is the class so united at such moments? But well, if the guys have to dress up and serve, you'll suffer too, Katawaki. Katawaki would certainly suffer given that he, the popular one, would have girls flocking to him. Don't make it sound like it doesn't concern you. You probably have to step up too. Eh? You know how to cook? No. Amane could not answer. And besides, you can't relax if you aren't keeping an eye on Sheena-san. It'll be bad if anyone suspicious is to eye her. That's right. But what's the point of me wearing that? It would be convenient for him to serve in order to keep an eye out for anyone suspicious near Mahiru. He did not mind the shame since Mahiru too would be dressing up, but he felt it was pointless to dress up as a butler. It'll be significant to Sheena-san. She'll be happy. Yeah. And also, lots of people are keeping an eye on you after you changed your image. Wait, I never heard of that. Well, you just care about Sheena-san after all. Amain felt awkward once this was pointed out. It was true that he focused his attention on Mahiru and never noticed the looks from the other girls. Ultimately, he never expected such stares directed at him, so he never realized so. Aman gave Katawaki a look of disbelief. You never noticed. And the latter shrugged, showing that he was not lying. You should notice the stares around you once in a while, Amane. Well, it's more like they're looking at you like some warm thing, so it's nothing dangerous, probably. That's annoying too. Just give up already. It's your fault for being flirty. We're not being that obvious. Ahaha. Katawaki giggled, clearly not believing Amane in the slightest, and the latter's face twitched. It's a good thing, though. Better than a hassle, you know. I don't want to see it end up like what happened to Shirakawa-san. That love rival thing? Katawaki's voice was a little heavy, and Amane too frowned. He never mentioned so to Itsuki, but Amani did consider the former as a close friend. It was said that there were lots of hardships and turmoil before Itsuki dated Chitos, resulting in this relationship. It was hard to imagine that when she first met Itsuki, Chitose was so aloof, blunt, and callous. She was a standout as a track club member, but she had a dispute against a senior because of Itsuki and was forced to leave. One could understand, even unwillingly, that the senior jealous of her might have caused her trouble. The senior was jealous that the boy was wooing a girl, and the girl treated the boy coldly. That senior probably escalated matters further, and one could understand her actions, even though they were not justified. Yeah, there was a conflict, and she gave up on track. I really hate those who just find fault like that, just relieved that you two are acknowledged as a couple. Katawaki probably was worried of Amane and Mahiru's relationship, as he had witnessed such an unpleasant situation. Oh, you two better be all lovey-dovey during the cultural festival. Don't let her be taken away. I don't intend to. Ha ha ha. Are you kidding me? Who's kidding? Amane frowned at Katawaki, who looked relieved as he laughed in bemusement. Amane snorted and left the matter at that. Chapter 195. Cute Stubbornness. Welcome back, Amane-kun. Aman returned home, went to change, and returned to the living room. Mahiru was home, smiling as she slapped at her thighs. A nonplussed Amani instinctively stared at Mahiru's face, and she continued to slap her thigh again, with a gentle smile. It seemed she was implying for Amane to head over to her, but he could not sit on her. The reverse would have been understandable at least. Amane gave her a perturbed look, and her smile became a wry one. You appear to be in a foul mood. It seemed Mahiru had realized it. Since Katawaki could, surely Mahiru too could. Amane did not want her to know. Whenever she saw through him, he would scratch his cheek awkwardly. And as expected, Mahiru giggled away. I expected that you would not refuse, Amane-kun. But you are really unwilling. Am I correct? Well, you are. That is why I'm going to cheer you up. You sure you can say it directly to me? Fufu, you dislike it? You know the answer. Who taught you that? You. Amane was speechless to hear that, and could only twitch his lips slightly. Mahiru giggled and slapped her thigh once again. Tempted by the soft thighs beneath the poised-looking burgundy skirt, Amane sat down hesitantly, a little distant from Mahiru, laid down horizontally, and placed his head on it. He looked up at Mahiru, who smiled down at him. The fine white fingers slipped through the black hair. Are you unwilling for my sake? Sort of, but actually, I just don't want to show you off to others. Jealous? Jealous or possessive, to put it bluntly. I don't really want this, though. A man knew he was just being childishly stubborn, and felt a little embarrassed after expressing his thoughts. He then turned his face towards her tummy. Mahiru exhaled at the sight of that, and then seemingly giggled as she gently combed through the hair, seemingly consoling as she coaxed him. I do not wish to dress up as a waitress either, but we have already decided. Yes, and I already promised them beforehand. Promised what? You will be the first to see me, Amane-kun. Aman unwittingly turned his face towards Mahiru. There was an impish bashfulness on her face. You shall be the first to see me, Amane-kun, and there may be quite a few customers, masters, but there is only one customer for me. She stuttered hesitantly, probably being bashful at the very end, but she did say these words, and Amane's face turned hot. Nevertheless, he did not avert his eyes and continued to look at Mahiru. She finally had enough, took the cushion by the side, and stuffed it onto his face. She did it gently and did not affect his breathing, but clearly she intended to conceal his eyes. The looming dissatisfaction in his heart then dissipated, but then came another one of embarrassment. Perhaps that was a feeling of endearment. I'll endure then. Yes. Mahiru continued to cover Amani's face with the cushion to prevent him from looking, but he could imagine her expression. He chuckled, turned aside, and buried his face onto her tummy. Chapter 196. Size measurements and private chat between males. And so, It was decided that Amane's class would be doing a cafe for the cultural festival. The excitement the boys showed back then had Amane grimacing. They were most likely looking forward to seeing Mahiru, Chitose, and the other pretty girls as waitresses. It was bad to changing the itinerary after it was decided. So Amane decided to go along with it, but for some reason he started resisting when they discussed their sizes. "No, it doesn't suit me. You won't know unless you try." "All right, just give up already. Let us measure our heights and shoulder widths, otherwise we can't borrow clothes." "Fujimiya, just give up. You've already given up Katawaki. It's the expected result, more or less." The negotiator did say that the matter of borrowing clothes was almost resolved, and decided to start measuring the sizes of all students to ensure that they had enough clothing. Amane was designated as a waiter, and was peeved by it. It was a consideration by Itsuki to assign him in the same time slot as Mahiru, just in case. But Itsuki should have mentioned this beforehand. But anyway, aren't you fatter than before? How rude. I don't have fat. I'm just forced to live a proper life. Haha, your wife really manages you well. Stop it. Amane coldly retorted in shame, as he was told that Mahiru was his wife, and Isuki gave his usual mischievous smile. Not fat, just a little more muscle, right? That's possible. I've been training using Katawaki's methods. I want to know what that is. Amane handed over to Katawaki as Itsuki was suddenly interested, and then looked towards the other boys who were measuring themselves. They were whispering away, and he was curious as to what they were talking about. He pricked his ears and heard some excited voices. It seemed they were talking about Mahiru. "Shina-san in a maid uniform, that's great. She's measuring in another classroom, right? I imagine they're amazing. They're big after all. The contrast is so great, especially when she's always with Shirakawa. Itsuki will kill you if he hears that. Actually, he admits that they're small, that they can fit his hand. I'm just jealous that Fujimiya gets to keep Shina-san to himself. You guys are giving my girlfriend strange looks, and Itsuki's going to suffer, not the guy saying that," Amane quietly retorted as he gave him a completely flabbergasted look. "Keep your voices down. I heard that. You've been listening, Fujimiya." Amane hoped that they did not fantasize about his girlfriend's body proportions, but it would be childish of him to get angry over it, so he endured. Either way, no matter how they fantasized, only he had the chance to personally witness, and that was why he was very calm about it. Itsuki gave a wry smile, probably because he did overhear this conversation. It would be bad to let Chitose hear it, and since he had no intention of disclosing it openly, it probably was just some private chatter. But seriously, what else can we do? That's the angel. She always hides them under her blazer or vest. So oi Fujimiya. How are they like anyway? Such an indecent conversation arose as there were only boys present. Amane withheld the urge to frown as he met their expectant looks, and shrugged. What else? It's as you see. Don't try to pull a fast on. What do you want me to say? Like, are they apples, melons, or anything? The same fruit can vary in sizes. You're being difficult. You're the one making it difficult for me. Why do I have to tell others what my girlfriend's sizes are? In any case, Amani did not know. Actually, Amani did know of her bust size, due to an accident back at his hometown when he saw her laundry. However, he could not say it. And besides, what could he do about it? His classmates were being so aggressive, and he faltered a little. They continued to loom passionately. Amane gave a pleading look towards Itsuki, who shrugged and seemed to have no intention to help. Anyway, I don't know. Stop lying. Who's lying? Actually, Amane really isn't lying. Left with no choice, Itsuki gave a helping hand and giggled in the face of the looming boys and Amane. Because Amane never did anything to Shina-san even though they spent a night together. There's no way he'll know. The whole classroom went silent once Itsuki said this. I'm wondering if you're a guy, Amane. That's why you aren't interested in those gravure magazines. Like hell it is. Hey Itsuki, don't make it sound that way. I'm just respecting Mahiru's wishes. That's what people call cowards, say. No. But actually she's willing to spend the night with you, right? Girls aren't stupid. Would thought about that. But well, they're more of an innocent, pure couple that's a rarity these days, and they think such things are too early. Just watch these fluffy creatures by the sidelines, you know? Don't talk too much. Hey Itsuki, whose side are you on? I'm always on your side. I don't believe you. Once Itsuki said this, all the boys gave looks of pity, and some even gave warm, gratified smiles, which had Amane's face twitching. I'm not innocent, and I would have done so if I could, but I'm just thinking of the future. Ooh, oh, oh, oh. Oi, why are you guys smiling? What are you looking at? Amane felt so awkward and gritted his teeth, and the gratified looks of pity increased in numbers. He had enough, and for the time being, threw the measuring tape at the culprit Itsuki. Amane-kun, the boys are giving us really warm looks. Do you know why? Nope. The girls too were done measuring, regrouped with the boys, who gave Mahiru strange stares. She was intrigued by them, and quietly asked Aman. The girls too gave Amane warm looks, and he wanted to ask Mahiru the same question. The girls are giving me strange looks too. Did you say anything, Mahiru? Nothing. I did not say anything that will affect your reputation. So you mean you said some things that will not affect my reputation? Please be at ease. I simply mentioned what I usually do with you, how we spend our time together. To be specific, you really are amazingly gentlemanly. You too. Two? Ah, no, nothing. Aman could not mention that he was criticized for not being a man. He quietly panicked, but answered nonchalantly, and patted away at a dumbfounded Mahiru on her head. Don't talk about that stuff again. I'm embarrassed. Yes, but I did learn a lot from everyone and benefited much. Say, I'm worried about what you're being taught. Chitosi had imparted lots of useless knowledge to Mahiru, and it was likely the other girls did weird things. Aman had a feeling Chitosi would have held back somewhat, but he hoped to ascertain what Mahiru was taught. I do not think there is anything making you awkward, Amane-kun. The girls are doing that with their eyes. It is to be expected. I don't think so. Hey, you two over there. It's fine for you to flirt, but we should get down to serious business, so stop flaunting. The committee member Isuki was at the podium, looking around, and shrugged. Aman had no intention to flirt, but it was pointless of him to say so in this situation. Those two aside, let's decide on the cafe menu. We should have done so earlier, but I think would have trouble if we didn't reserve our clothes. The classmate in charge of renting clothes has made measurements out of everyone and is now contacting the supplier. The boy's data is here. Don't misuse it. Itsuki, a capable leader himself, swiftly gave instructions and handed over the measurements to a girl who was strangely enthused, asking her to rent clothes. Amane thought with a wry smile that they probably wanted to see Katawaki as a waiter. First of all, raw foods are a no-go. We only get a certain amount of time to use the cooking classroom, and we're going to focus mainly on pastries and drinks because of the expiration and hygiene purposes. No issues so far? None. And don't add anything weird, Chi. Rude. Cheetos did do so during Valentine's, but that was a select few. She probably would not do so this time. Drinks-wise, we can use coffee, tea, and juice. Anyone with other ideas can raise their hands. I'm just suggesting common stuff. Let's see, how about ice cream? I want some cream soda. That's a nice idea. But how are we going to keep it? We can buy, store them in the cooking classroom, and then bring them over. But since it'll take up freezer space, we'll have to check with the student council. I'll take it down as reference and ask them when I hand over our plans to the council. What about snacks? Thought about it, but it's too much work and will take much time. So I don't recommend too much effort to make our own stuff instead of serving pre-made stuff. The only snacks I can suggest are hot dogs and sandwiches, and other classes are doing hot dogs. They'll hate us for stealing their business. If we do too much, it'll make it difficult for us to handle, and we can't balance the finances. We can just ignore it if there's no real demand. What do you think? Guess we got no choice then. Itsuki quickly went on a spiel to summarize the discussion. Amane realized that Itsuki really had talent for leadership. How reliable, and Mahiru too probably felt the same as she giggled so. Anyway, this is all we have for now, and I'll just sort this out before heading it over to the student council, about how we're going to get drinks like coffee. I know of some who sells coffee beans, so I'll go chat with them. Take it as promotion for them, ask them if they can sell to us at a cheaper price. We got this chance and it'll be great if people will talk about the taste. Whoa, so reliable. Don't fall for me, man. I don't swing that way. Itsuki joked. But he did do what he needed to, decently even. And that was what he was amazing at. Amin was really impressed by the cheerful personality and leadership he could not imitate. He thought of the itinerary that would follow, and sighed. I just set up a haunted house last year after all. On one hand, Amani felt it was a hassle to serve customer, but on the other, he was really impressed by the fact that he was participating in such a student-like activity. He, already on the gloomy side, felt cultural festivals were just a waste of time and effort. But with Mahiru next to him, he felt it might not be a bad thing to create some memories. What is it? Nothing, just that we should work hard for the festival. Fufu, yes. I am looking forward to seeing you serve customers. Amane-kun. I have a bad attitude, though. He coldly responded to Mahiru's teasing, and the latter showed a happy smile. Chapter 197. Cultural Festival and Service Practice. Preparations for the cultural festival proceeded successfully under Itsuki's lead. Part of the reason was that it was their second year doing so, and everyone was used to it. More importantly, the boys and girls of this class were clearly united for selfish purposes. They were naturally busy, as they had to tend to their studies and prepare for the festival. But Amane was numb to the hustle, and felt strangely fulfilled. Oi, there's a mistake on the flyer. Redo it before it gets sent for printing. How can we make a mistake on the school address? Where's the tablecloths? I heard they're bought, but I can't find them. Our profits will drop if we buy it at usual price. The students finished their assignments, and Amain and others heard the buzz while being guided on how to serve their customers. Fujimiya-kun, smile. Smile. Too stiff, too stiff. The girl in charge was a part-timer at a cafe, Ayaka Kido, and she was giving a wry smile at Amane, who was giving a fake smile. It was not that Aman could not smile, but to her, his smile was a little rigid. Just smile as you usually do. A forced smile makes it stiff and unnatural. Relax a little more. But that's how I am since I'll be serving customers. Just think of the customers as potatoes. Potatoes, Aman-kun, you can assume them as eggs. Mahiru, who too was being guided, quipped jokingly. She understood that Amain liked eggs, given their interactions over the past year or so. But Amain did not want to smile at customers like they were egg dishes, and it did not matter to him. This isn't the problem, so Amane thought, but he deliberately chose not to retort since Mahiru looked so happy and scratched his cheek. Anyway, many people say that it's better for you not to force a smile. Make it normal. Try and get him to relax. Who said I look better when I look natural? The girls in our class? I heard that's the feeling they get whenever they see you with Shina-san. I don't feel comfortable to be seen. You're not flexing? I'm not. How's that deliberate? Aman glared at Itsuki, who stared back dumbfounded with this guy has no self-awareness implication. Shut up, Aman retorted. Mahiru blushed a little and showed a faint smile. She gave him a comforting, bashful look, and her face was a little redder, so it seemed she had some self-awareness. To be precise, she might have finally noticed it, given her personality. The other girls led by Kido started nodding away. I think you're most relaxed when you're with Shiina-san, Fujimiya-kun. What's that about? Well, the aura or sort. Sometimes it feels like that. Aman was clueless, but it seemed Mahiru had some inkling as she tried to hide her own shame. Her eyes contained some shame, and along with some uneasiness, Kido noticed it and started laughing, waving her hands to deny it. Don't worry, Shiina-san, I have a boyfriend. I'm not interested in stealing someone else's. This is not what I am worried about. You don't have to hide it. You're worried that your boyfriend is attracting attention, right? I'm more interested in muscular ones, though, and Fujimiya-kun is too skinny for me to consider. You're making it sound like I'm a beansprout. Amane assumed that he had gained some muscle mass, so the too skinny left him in some despair. Itsuki had once boasted that Amane had more muscles, but it might be hyperbole compared to how the latter was once like. Oh, Amane-kun is not a beansprout. His skin is a little white, but once he removes his clothes. He does have some muscle. Oh, so he looks amazing when he strips. You're making it sound wrong. Don't say anything that they'll misunderstand, Mahiru. But they are sturdy. All right now. You'll be the one embarrassed later. Amane hoped that she would realize that whatever she said would have implications, that she had seen and touched his body. In fact, they merely clung onto each other in swimsuits, and it was nothing indecent per se, but it would not be strange for these words to be understood as something else. Mahiru did mention that a man was gentlemanly, and everyone probably knew that they did not do it. Mahiru quieted down once Amane said so. Feeling relieved, Amane looked around, and there were warm stares around. Chik, he clicked his tongue, mainly at Itsuki. Why are you giving me that look? Your smile annoys me. You're pushing too much blame onto me. All right, stop flirting and start practicing. Aman left his issues aside and clicked his tongue at Itsuki again as the latter prompted him once again. He then gave Kido a displeased look, and Kido laughed. I know you two are really close. Don't worry. Just smile and serve the customers. Your gestures are gentlemanly anyway, so you should be fine as long as you follow what I taught you. I don't think I'm ever elegant. He did not think he was a brute, but he did not feel that he was elegant anyway. He was perplexed to hear her say this, but Mahiru smiled understandingly. I suppose it is because of your parents' influence, Amane-kun. They are very graceful. I can't call Mom that, but she doesn't do anything to cause discomfort. So you spent time with Fujimiya-kun's family, Shina-san. Kei Kido-san. Sorry. Aman frowned at a giggling Kido, which caused her more amusement. Thus, he and Mahiru ended up basked in the warm smiles of many the entire time. Chapter 198. Trying Clothes. 2 weeks to the cultural festival, they were notified that their requested clothes were delivered. These are the delivered clothes. Please wait a moment. I'll distribute them one by one. There's further instructions once you get your clothes, so please wait. Kido smiled as she distributed the clothes to her classmates. Once she looked towards Amane. Here she beamed as she went over to Amane and handed the clothes to him. Ah, Fujimiya-kun, there's a classroom for you to change clothes in. Do go there alone later. Why alone? Special situation. What's with this situation? It's a little wish from Shina-san, and I think we should fulfill it for her. She says she wants to show you first, Fujimiya-kun. Of course, everyone else agreed. Kido then said something to assure him. Amane felt sorry about that, and was grateful to Kido for being willing to do this for Mahiru's sake. Thanks. So he said to Kido and the girls who heartily accepted this turn of events. During this allocated time, Amane waited before that classroom, for he heard that Mahiru was changing inside. Of course, the curtains were pulled up. Everyone was supposed to head to their changing room, but they borrowed a classroom to practice serving their dishes. Also, the fluffy maid dresses would garner much attention if they went out. There was lots of stuff, paint on the corridor, which could have dirtied the classes. This might be a major reason for this arrangement. Why am I so nervous? He felt strangely, indescribably awkward once he thought of how there was a girl changing beyond the door. It's his girlfriend. And he did see her in her undergarments, practically, but his heart remained restless. He leaned on the door and waited silently. You can come in. A tense reply came. Mahiru might have been nervous herself, and Aman chuckled as he did as she told him to. She was standing some distance away from the door. He closed the door behind him and stared at Mahiru before him. She was dressed in a long-sleeved waitress dress that reached her ankles, a classic dress that had suitably blended into modern times. There were lumps at the elbow sleeves, as though there was air packed inside. It was a blue one-piece dress accompanied with an apron. Kido once said that when wearing miniskirts, they would wear another skirt underneath to prevent it from fluffing up. Mahiru was wearing a long dress that was not too big and formed a neat, fine silhouette. There were frills on the apron as decoration, and hardly any exposed skin, cultivating a prim, innocent image. Beneath the hem of the dress were ankles covered by black socks. On a side note, the black socks belonged to Mahiru. She would wearing socks all year long so as to not expose any skin. This too was the situation. How is it? Mahiru tilted her head slowly, and the hair falling by the side fluttered. She would have to serve customers and deliver their orders. The flax-colored hair was tied in the back to avoid inconvenience. A white brim headdress ornamented her head, emphasizing her vibe as a maid. Suits you more than I expected. Is that so? Thank you. It is my first time wearing such a thing. Amane's earnest praise was received with a bashful reply. It suited her so well partially because of her beautiful face, and more so because her demeanor meshed with it better than expected. Mahiru herself was one who liked to serve others, and to be blunt, she was servile, and thus it seemed to suit her so well. Amane saw her fluffy smile, and naturally had the urge to withhold her from serving customers. Amane-kun? Sorry. It suits you so well that I don't want to show this to anyone else. It's too damaging. Fufu, what does it damage? My sanity? I shall pat your head later, so please endure for now. I too do not wish for others to see you in a butler uniform. It's all right. Nobody's going to throw themselves at me. It does matter. Mahiru was fuming for some reason, so Amane apologized. It seemed she too realized that she overdid it. I should be the one apologizing, and softly apologized. You are more approachable ever since you changed your image. I do hear other girls praising you. I never heard of that, though. They will not say such things to you. It is simply chatter between girls, and they will not approach you boldly with me around. Aman did not know what the girls chatted about him amongst themselves, and felt a shiver up his spine. Their views were mostly good-natured, according to Mahiru. However, he did not think he received their goodwill, and at most, some warm stares. After all, he felt that those girls who would approach him even though he was attached unacceptable, and had to refuse. He did not recall meeting such a girl, and was numb at Mahiru's words. It seemed Mahiru was aware that Amane only heard half her words, for she pursed her lips cutely. I say, females will be more honest amongst themselves, you know. How is the relationship like? How is his personality like? What are the experiences and so on? We do also talk about things we will never allow boys to hear. What in the world did my girlfriend get involved in? This is girls' talk. There is no fluff, and it is all earnest talk. They do say that you are outstanding. Amane-kun, so I am starting to worry. Mahiru's hesitant look resembled an adorable maid, which riled a sense of guilt within Amane, along with a little sadism. So, what did they say? They did say that you are gentlemanly, and that you are not used to dealing with girls, which they are fond of. I don't think they're praising me, and that you won't fall for anyone else once you have someone. It was expected of him to only care for the one he loved. It would be rude to woo other girls while he was still dating, and also dishonest. Aman did not date Mahiru half-heartedly like that. The Fujimiyas were often said to be devoted of love, and truth be told, Amane had no intention of caring about anyone other than Mahiru. You're the same, right? Will you cast aside glances at other guys? Of course not. There's nothing to worry about you then. You're my only one, and I'll only care about you. That aside, I don't want others to give you coveting looks, and that's why I don't want others to see you in this getup. They reverted back to their initial topic, and Mahiru frowned slightly, before rubbing her forehead onto his upper arm several times. Let us endure for now. Yeah. That aside, I want to keep you to myself. Same here. Aman gently patted Mahiru's back while she continued to rub her forehead onto him. She then lifted her head and stared at him intently. I want to see you in butler clothing sooner, Amane-kun. Time for the guy to borrow this place and show off. Just wait a while. Thanks to Itsuki, Chitose and Kido's goodwill, Amane got to see Mahiru in this state earlier. It was originally meant to be shown to everyone. Soon it would be the boys' turn to wear their rented clothes. Let's say this first, though. It's nothing fancy. No, I am looking forward to it. Mahiru smiled, indicating that her words were not out of courtesy but earnestness. Aman felt an indescribable tickle in his heart. Just wait. Don't hope too much about it, and scratched his cheek. How about it? What do you mean? How about it? It suits her. The boys in charge of serving were done changing, and were all riled up as Aman had just seen Mahiru in maid uniform. Aman, upon being asked so, could only answer thusly. His classmates were obviously disappointed to hear his dull reaction. He stared at them dumbfoundedly. Say, I don't think that's all you're thinking right now, right? What else can I say? There's no way it doesn't suit her. Well, yeah, it's Shina-san after all. I want her service too. I want her to smile and say, Goshujin-sama. I'm never letting her serve you guys. Miser, let us dream. Better to shatter the dreams that can never happen. Ouch. Over this period, Amani got along with the classmates who were laughing out loud, though a minority was really despondent, and they could joke along. He started to interact with the other boys. I'm so envious. There were some who would occasionally say so while patting him on the back, and he would respond in kind. Amane deliberately answered mercilessly as he casually interacted, wearing the clothes prepared for him. The boys were dressed in navy blue jackets that were close to black, slacks, dark gray waistcoats. It was a simple, lanky design that exuded elegance. He did not feel tight, and had no issues moving in it. He should be fine. It's amazing. Itsuki looks like a playboy butler, the comedic type commonly seen in manga. Why roast me? Itsuki was done changing, and was teased by the other boys. Aman glanced aside, and as they had commented, the newly dressed butler looked cheerful, to put it nicely. To be blunt, though, he looked frivolous. Yep, you look frivolous. You too, Amani. You, though, oh, it's the serious look that can be Shina-san. What nonsense are you saying? Aman would naturally dress well since it was for Mahiru to see. He combed some of his hair back and looked more refreshing than usual. He did not want to do the all-back hair commonly seen in illustrations, but he would do this much without hesitation. He's serious. This guy's serious. He was so unenthusiastic before this, and now he's so motivated. I don't know why Shina-san's looking forward to it, but I'll definitely get serious if I'm him. They're flirting. No, well, if your girlfriends are looking forward to it, you guys will be enthusiastic too, right? Stop it, Fujimiya. It's super effective against singles. Sorry. Don't apologize, man. It hurts. The classmates said so as they nonchalantly put Amane in a headlock. He took it silently this time and shrugged at a smiling Itsuki, who was a little devastated to be called frivolous. Well, Chitose will be happy to see you like this, Itsuki. Yeah, and she'll go all Ikun so frivolous. Yep. Aman imagined Chitose answering so, though not maliciously, and quietly chuckled. Itsuki jabbed at Amane's flank, and the latter slapped the back in return. Speaking of which, I think Katawaki's going to be the center of attention again. Not really, the girls said that the prince type, frivolous, aloof, and shotas are all in demand. Kuju has it rough to be called a shota. Also, you're obviously the frivolous one. Kuju was forced to serve due to his looks. He was short compared to the other boys, and fit an archetype in a certain sense. He was often displeased to be called cute, more so this time it seemed. Amani glanced aside at Kuju, who looked displeased while having changed clothes. For good or bad, he was diminutive, had a baby face, and might satisfy a certain need. On a side note, his buddy Hiiragi was in the back. The reason being that he was burlier than expected. He was sturdier than the other boys, and the decision was made that he should contribute as labor instead of serving customers. Phew! Damn you, Kazuya, you traitor. Amane heard a curse from the cute baby face, but he chose to pretend not to hear it. Oh, it really suits you, Ikun. Frivolous, though. The students in charge of serving were gathered in the classroom, and it was time for the reveal. As expected, Chitosi leered away as she appraised him as frivolous. Itsuki too knew that he looked the part, and did not deny so, but he looked into the distance. Is it that ridiculous? He muttered so. It was to be expected, though, since he was usually like this. Chitose, too, was to serve customers, and was dressed in a maid uniform. Perhaps there were two kinds, for she was not wearing the conservative dress Mahiru wore. It was one focused on cuteness and decorative purposes, one that was several centimeters above the knees. One could see the frills beneath the hem, and white knee socks on her long, slender legs. The short size complemented the fluffy apron, giving the vibe of a modern maid. Anyway, how is it? Does it suit me? Of course, anything suits you, Chi. You say that, but you were rolling on the floor laughing when I wore Mahirun's clothes and showed you. Ah, that's a size. Ikun, sorry. The frivolous, so-called Itsuki too would be obedient in the face of his girlfriend. It was his fault for touching at her sore point, so Amane did not retort. Besides Chitosi, there were a few other waitress girls in maid outfits. Eamon chuckled in amazement at how they would be carrying out this event. Kido, in charge of hosting, was wearing the same uniform as Mahiru and approached him with a smile. Ah, you look handsome when you put in the effort to dress up, Fujimiya-kun. Mahiru's looking forward to it. Fufu, such a good boyfriend. Shina-san, your boyfriend's dressed like a butler now. Kido whisked Mahiru over with a hearty smile and wave, and Mahiru did not do so for some reason. He thought she was unwilling, but it did not seem to be the case since she was blushing and fidgeting. She's so nervous looking forward to it. I guess she's over-imagining it. Kido giggled and returned to Mahiru. All right, Shina-san, it'll be a pity if you don't have a look up close. You two will be doing your shifts together, so you should get used to it. Itsuki and the others had arranged for Amane and Mahiru to be in the same shift. It was partially to ward off any harassment, and also to allow for them to tour the school together during their off period. Kido nudged Mahiru's back, and she approached him hesitantly. It doesn't suit me. Not at all. It is wonderful. So unlike you, Amane-kun. Is it that ridiculous? How do I look? More alluring than usual. I'm wearing more than usual. I don't usually wear this much, let alone at home. Sometimes it is better to wear more. Mahiru emphasized for some reason, leaving Amane perturbed, but the other girls nodded with understanding looks, and the atmosphere could not allow him to deny so. As usual, Mahiru looked up with blushing cheeks, fidgeting as she killed off the boys with cuteness. There was no stopping her. Mahiru, don't show others such a look. It'll kill. Same to you, Amane-kun. Sure. That is casual of you. Mahiru looked displeased, but Amane's face was so unlike Mahiru's prettiness, and there was no way he would have charmed both boys and girls. You don't have to worry about it. Amane brushed it off with such an implication, and Mahiru gently nudged at his upper arm in seemingly disbelief. Chapter 199, Service Practice and the Angel's Smile. Welcome. Ugh. After the show-off, it was time to practice, but they could not. Mahiru's work smile immobilized all the boys. They, who had volunteered to be customers, crumbled before the smile. The angel's smile truly was terrifying. Those that managed to survive the initial attack were led to their seats and were shot down by another smile. Amane felt it would be terrible if she was not under control, and his face twitched. The angel is really scary, Amane. Go stop Shina-san. That smile isn't at full power, though. Wait, she's not going all out yet. Stop watching the fun. This isn't a joke here. Amane watched from the sidelines, and Mahiru's smile remained a little pretentious to him. It was truly because she was giving a business smile to appeal to customers. If she put in a little more effort, however, the boys would surely crumble. The girls, too, were mesmerized. The angel's smile was super effective. We can't practice service like this. Kido could only give a wry smile as she observed on. Amane was used to it, and might have underestimated the smiles probably because they were always together. Mahiru herself had a beauty and disposition that would mesmerize anyone, and he should have expected this beforehand. I think the serving part is fine, but we cannot cause our customers' heads to numb there. Sorry. No, this isn't your fault or Shiina-san, Kido said and gave a 1,000-yard stare. Amane was really apologetic, but he was hapless. We should have ordered some cold drinks. Yeah, make it all cool and icy here. The classroom might be boiling thanks to Mahiru, and they decided to pay attention to the air conditioning. But seriously, it'll be troublesome if we don't control her. Yeah, the victims. Ah, no, it's partly because of the victims, but mostly because I'm annoyed. Kido gave Amane a dumbfounded look once she heard these true thoughts blurted out. I don't want my girlfriend to start smiling at other guys, even if it's a business smile. Look, I'm petty all right. Say, I thought you're rather matured. The sudden change of topic had Amane widening his eyes this time. Kido smiled and looked up at him. I used to think you're more calm and poised, more adult-like compared to the other guys. To be honest, you seem a little inapproachable, but you're rather cute. Are you roasting me here? No, I'm just praising you. You seem to act your age now. Like, I get that you're a guy since you're acting all jealous, and you really like Shiina-san, so I'm relieved to see that. Yeah, anyway, it's good. I'm not falling for you. Don't worry. What's that at the end? Shiina-san's stare. She's looking at us. The nonchalant words had Amane noticing that Mahiru was look. Mahiru was not giving a suspicious look, but rather a little displeasure. Amane felt that she probably was not doubting his fidelity. And just as Amane felt conflicted about Mahiru smiling to everyone, so would Mahiru be peeved that Amane was getting along well with other girls. It seemed Mahiru liked Kido as a person, however, so the stare seemed a little anxious. You really are loved, Amane. You're really loved, Fujimiya-kun. Itsuki appeared to have eavesdropped as he joked, and Kido too happily imitated. Amane frowned for a single moment, but he gave Mahiru a gentle smile. The girls practiced serving the customers, and it was the boys' turn. I want to be Katawaki-kun's customer. Ah, no way, me too. Hey, don't decide. Anyway, me too. Since when is it on a by-name basis? The girls frantically volunteered to be Katawaki's practice partner, and Amane watched from afar, thinking that these girls were really amazing. Katawaki was available, which was one reason for the skirmish. The highly popular Katawaki seemed a little conflicted, and yet weary as he smiled away. Popular guys sure have it tough, so Amane pitied. It's amazing. Kido did not join in, and watched on. Kido, you have a boyfriend, right? Yep, I do. He's from another class. I've known him since young, and he has decent muscles. That's quite the introduction. You boasting? Ah, I don't just like the muscles, of course. He's a klutz, but he's kind and poised. I'll introduce him to you if I get the chance. Kido giggled, and Eamon nodded. The skirmish for the customer's position became slightly chaotic. Kido smiled away as she clapped hard to gain everyone's attention, quelling this conflict. All right. We'll go by order for who's to practice with Katawaki-kun. Once you decide on the order, I'll come up with a name list. We'll get several tries, and I think everyone should be able to experience this once, given the numbers. That'll be fair, right? Anyway, do your job, Akazawa-kun. Show us what the guys can do. No, well, we don't need to get the guys to perform. I think Yuta should be fine. We can't leave it all to Katawaki-kun. And Chi-chan. Stop watching already. But... No buts. Anyway, those who want to volunteer for practice decide on your order and tell us. See, the other guys are all so free. Get practicing. Kido was obviously more reliable than Itsuki, who was supposed to lead. Amane gave a wry smile, and Mahiru approached quietly, standing next to him courteously. I shall be your first customer, Amane-kun. Alrighty, Anyway, why is everyone picking people? Because everyone is dressed well. Well, Katawaki's a handsome butler. That's probably an ideal one. Katawaki showed a perturbed smile while surrounded by the excited girls. His butler outfit looked decent on him, form-fitting. He already was handsome to the point of being called the prince, and the clothes too suit him. Anything would probably suit him unless the clothes looked outlandish. The handsome aura he oozed was so dazzling, and Amane felt that if he were to stand next to Katawaki at this point, people would likely compare them, which would trouble him. It does suit Katawaki-san, but he is not my type. Well, yeah, I'll be in trouble if I'm not your type. It's a lot better for me. Naturally. Amane felt a little awkward to hear Mahiru's insistence. You are the best, so her expression implied, and he could not say anything. This is proof that she likes me, right? He felt gaudy and yet elated, and it was no wonder that his lips were slightly raised. He covered his lips with his white-gloved hand to hide his embarrassment. Mahiru showed an elegant smile, as though she had seen through him. Chapter 200, Angel Killer. After the war over Katawaki ended, Amane and the others began to practice their service. Needless to say, Amane was to practice with Mahiru. Welcome. Please have a seat here. He made sure to make a natural smile as he welcomed Mahiru, who was acting as the customer. For some reason, she froze. He was not giving the smile he usually showed at home, but a smile usually reserved for strangers. Her eyes looked rather rattled, however. Dear customer, may I know what's the problem? Nothing. Nothing at all. Mahiru shook her head frantically, and her tied long hair swayed like a whip. Amani served her just as a waiter would serve a customer. Her hair did not touch him, but it could have if they were as close as they usually were. His heart surely was calm enough for him to think about these things. He heaved a sigh of relief and led Mahiru to her seat. Also, he did check with the door staff of their numbers, and thus there would not be a case where there was no available seat even though he let her in. Please have a seat here and wait a moment. Amain pulled the chair out, smiled, and Mahiru sat on it gingerly. She probably was reacting out of shame and nervousness, but the nervous one should have been Amane, the one smiling at her like a customer. He did not understand what's there for her to be embarrassed about. He deliberately ignored her reaction since they had to practice, memorized her order, and went to the indoor curtain that shielded the simple kitchen they had. What's this? Some ambush. What do you mean? The practice continued on after her order, and only ended when he saw her leave the shop. Once he was done practicing with Mahiru, he went to Kido, who was in charge of guiding them. Kido nodded away, looking impressed. On a side note, Mahiru was restless the entire time, and Amani was worried if he had omitted something. Your service and gestures are fine. But Mahiru's like that, though? That's because you're handsome, right? You're doing decently. How about working at the cafe I work at? The owner will be happy. I'll think about it when I need the money for myself. Aman hinted that he had no intentions to do so for the time being, and Kido gave a regretful smile. She then glanced aside at Mahiru, who was fanned with a file by Shitosi. Shina-san will have it tough during this cultural festival. Well, there'll be many customers after her. That's not what I mean. What do you mean? She's worried because her boyfriend may attract attention. I feel that you'll be really popular if you keep smiling like that. She poked at Amain's face with a ballpoint pen, and he gently flicked it aside with his finger. I don't think that'll happen. Do you know, Fujimiya-kun? People do judge others based on appearances initially, but appearances don't just mean looks. There's also the sense of purity, vibe, gestures, and so on. People do observe that. To be honest, there are guys who are more handsome than you if we're just going on looks, but I don't think it's enough to gain goodwill. Well, I get that, and I do think so too. Aman and Mahiru were not on good terms when they first met each other. He found her pretty, but did not have feelings for her, partially because he had no real interest in the opposite gender. You should agree that you're popular. Your smile is great. If I agree with that, doesn't that make me a narcissist? But it's true that you're smiling better not as good as my boyfriend, though. Guess what I'm feeling after I just got flexed on? I think you want to check out how good my boyfriend is. Ugh, probably. Even though they spent a short time together, Aman could tell that Kido was an honest, cheerful, amicable person who loved to care for others. He was actually curious about this boyfriend she was so fond of, but all he knew was that the boyfriend's personality and body was fine. We'll talk about that next time. Anyway, you pass. Here's a little red flower. From her apron, Kido took out a little red flower sticker, as though it was proof that he passed, and handed it to him. On a side note, Itsuki, who had been observing, had a failed sticker on his head, which he asked Kido to paste. And the reason why Itsuki failed was that he was grinning away the entire time. He was reminded not to leer too much. Anyway, I got to check on the others. Go to Shina-san Fujimiya-kun. Yeah. And if you say any lovey-dovey stuff, that's not going to happen. How can I do it in front of everyone? Amana's expression betrayed his displeasure, and it was dismissed by her usual hearty smile. The little displeasure he had was gone, and with an inexplicable ticklish feeling, he scratched his cheek and went towards Mahiru. Mahiru. Ooh. Amani-kun. Ah, the reason for Mahirun's blood rush is here. The blood rush Shitoshi spoke of probably referred to Mahiru's searing face. Her white face was a little red when he was serving her. The blushing maid with slightly reddened eyes leaned on the chair and looked up towards him, which was bad for his heart. Aman, you really are Mahirun's killer, so don't bully her so much. What's with this characteristic? Well, a special attribute that activates only on Mahirun. I think Amani-kun's target is not just me alone. Mahiru muttered so, and Amani smiled wryly as he sat next to her, which caused her to shiver. Am I that handsome? Yes. I'm honored as the boyfriend then anyway. Understand that I don't care about anyone other than you. I know this, but I do feel a little conflicted. Mahiru wriggled, seemingly feeling unbearable, so Amani patted her to calm her down, but she ended up blushing more than before. Is this a special attack on Mahirun, or an AoE attack? It's like a chain reaction that causes more victims from Mahirun's embarrassment. You said something? Nothing. Aman glared at Shitos, who went off tangent, and the latter played dumb as she evaded that look.